evening, everyone. Welcome. I would like to, first of all, take roll.
Ellsworth,
Here.
Liker,
Here.
Lopez Aguino,
Here.
Medina,
Here.
Quinones.
Here.
Thank you.
Would you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the Thank you. Is there a report from closed session?
No report this evening.
Thank you. Next would be changes to the agenda. I believe there are some. Get my pen ready.
Thank you, President Ellsworth. The staff is requesting the following changes to tonight's agenda. We need to pull item 6, the update on transportation, and postpone it to a later date. We would like to move item F, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee Annual Report, to the top of the discussion action section. So that would be the first item in discussion action. We would also like to move item E, On-Site Security Residence Program, to follow the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee report.
So I'm in understanding that it will go F, E, A, B, C, D, E. No G. Wait,
Yes,
no, E is up, F is up, and no G. So it goes F, E, A, B, C, D.
yes,
Any
thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. May I hear a motion to approve the meeting agenda as amended?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Let's vote.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Liker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, now we have communications to the Board of Trustees from our various groups. First of all, South Bay PTA Council. Welcome, Ms. Connors.
Is it on? Good evening, President Ellsworth, board members, Superintendent Espinosa, and our community. Our PTAs have been very busy. I feel like I've missed so many meetings, but we're going to the championships, so. They've been doing some fabulous work. Membership is through the roof. I'm really excited. We've had the best membership ever. I just left Bayside. They're having a fall fest tonight. And wow, the turnout was incredible. They were so busy. So very successful event. I helped at Nikolaev's Fall Fest recently. Another huge turnout. I'm so excited. I know board member Jose Aquino was there and with his darling little girl. And it looked like everybody was having a really good time. So the events are really well attended and the parents want to be on campus. The kids are having a great time. So I'm really proud of our PTAs. Our two newest PTAs, Mendoza and Bayside, are doing their fall festivals tonight. So otherwise we have them here to introduce them. But yeah, I think PTA is going great. I'm very proud of all of our units. Their events are very successful. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And thank all the volunteers who are helping. California School Employees Association, Chapter 59, better known as CSCA.
Good evening, Superintendent Jose Espinosa, President Ellsworth, and trustees. Hello, CSEA brothers and sisters. On behalf of your CSEA Executive Board, we would like to thank all of you for your attendance this evening. As 2023 is coming to a close, we would like to provide all of you with a few updates. First, we'd like to recognize that our chapter currently has a total of 491 enrolled members and 55 potential members. It is amazing to see that our chapter continues to grow with all of the classified staff that has been hired over the past few months. With that, we'd like to remind our members that our CSEA Chapter 5-9 is still in need of a chapter secretary. It only takes one member to fill this role, so please attend your next chapter meeting on November 11th via Zoom to claim this vacancy. I would also like to mention that our chapter has the opportunity to send 5 of our members to the annual CSEA Paraeducator Conference in March of 2024 that will be held in Ontario, California. The 5 members that will attend this conference are Connie Sandoval from Imperial Beach Charter, Capri Smith from Oneonta Elementary, Stephanie Martinez from Barry Elementary, Mike Ferguson from Landscaping, and myself, Vanessa Velasquez from Nikoloff Elementary. On behalf of our chapter, we'd like to thank the district team for your acceptance to send all 5 of us members to attend this conference. Secondly, I'd like to remind our members that if you are ever asked to attend a meeting with management and you feel that discipline may be involved, you have the right to ask for the meeting to be rescheduled and seek CSEA representation. Please contact a job steward by sending an email to csea59.jobstewards@gmail.com or contact your labor representative at 858-202-2636 for immediate assistance. Lastly, I'd like to address our Board of Trustees on behalf of all of our CSEA members. Tonight, one of the items listed on the agenda will be approving the amendments of the employment agreement between you and Superintendent Espinosa. While reviewing this potential agreement, a lot of our members and myself were shocked to see what could potentially be agreed upon. During negotiations, we were told that we were only able to be given no more than a 3% on salary schedule raise. Now, if this were true, why is it that our district can give the superintendent a 4% raise every year for the next few years and not to our classified members? While we appreciate all the hard work and dedication Superintendent Espinosa has given our district during the short time he has been with us, our members have also given a lot of hard work and dedication to not only our schools, but most importantly to our students, families, and this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Southwest Teachers Association, SWATA.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, trustees, colleagues, and community members. This past week, we had the first meeting for our Assets Management Study Committee. The committee discussed at length our district's decline in student enrollment. The committee was presented with possible solutions, all which included the dissolution of a site, the possible school closure of one of our 12 sites. Why? Because the cost is more to keep the site open than the revenues the students bring in. Makes sense if we're in a decline in enrollment, right? We keep hearing in multiple occasions that there's no money. We're in a decline in enrollment. There's no money. Our budget is small. So if we have no money, then why are we giving our superintendent, who's been here less than 2 years, an ongoing raise? This isn't just a one-time raise, but an ongoing raise for the next 4 years. Let me break down the amendment to his contract. There's a bonus in July of 2023 that is equivalent to $10,300 and $98.96. There's also a salary increase retro to January 2023 to $259,974. Then an annual increase of 4% for the next 4 years. That means it will increase to $270,372 in 2024, just a few months from now. In 2025, $281,187. 2026, $292,435. 2027, $304,132. Wow, that much for a district that is in a decline in enrollment? Now, not only does his amendment include that raise, but it also includes the coverage of 100% of his dependents for medical, dental, and vision. My members will be paying over $800 per month for their family benefits. How does that make sense? It also includes all expenses to attend professional meetings at local, county, state, and national level. When was the last time that the district paid for your professional development? Aren't we talking about a decline of enrollment over and over? We are. Possibly closing a school? Yes, we are. But we're giving him an ongoing raise for the next 4 years. We don't know what our enrollment will be then. We don't know what our revenues will be. How can you commit to that? Now, let's compare what our superintendent is making to our neighboring districts. Superintendent of National City made $219,964 in 2022. Dr. Brady, who has a PhD, is in her 8th year with that district. Dr. Potter of San Isidro, again, doctor, made $213,958 in 2022. She's in her 6th year with that district. They're all committed. Now, the superintendent of Chula Vista, who oversees over 50 schools, only makes $280,000. Our superintendent will make more than that with this amendment to the contract. Does that make sense? Now, let's talk about the superintendent of public instruction, who oversees all of our schools in the state of California, who makes less than $200,000. But our superintendent, who only oversees 12 schools, is going to make almost $300,000. Make it make sense to us. CSEA just talked about how all they could get was 3%. We also only got 3%, but he can get 4% and a 4% off bonus. Make it make sense. Aren't we in this reflection year, rebuilding? Let's really reflect and see if that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. We are on to public comments on non-agenda items. We have none.
I'm sorry, Madam President, you skipped the superintendents.
Oh, I am so sorry. I'm
Thank you.
looking right at it.
That's okay, thank you. I don't have any comments tonight. I just want to thank everybody for being here. It's really nice seeing this many faces at our meetings. It shows that you know our staff and hopefully some of our community are engaged. Thank you.
Now, public comments. Thank you, Superintendent. Public comments on non-agenda items for which we have
One,
please.
Frank Cherry.
Frank Chair, I've been retired 6 years, 5 months, and 2 days, and I'd like to thank all of you out there who have kept me informed about what's going on. And I'm here to talk to you tonight because I don't think anything that I'm going to say is going to change their mind. So I just want to address you for a bit.
Frank, please, this is your moment to address the board.
Then I'll address you too.
Thank you.
My 5th year, I became SWATA president. And as SWATA president, the executive director, she sat down and she talked with me about the importance of finding quality board members as candidates. Now, I know all of the teachers out here, they've got 20, 30, maybe 40, 50 parents in their class. And of those, I bet there are 1 or 2 really good parents interested. They care a lot and they'd make real good board candidates. It's up to you to make sure that you have candidates who are going to listen to you, not just listen to you, but also board members who are going to go out and ask some open-ended questions like, tell me, what do you do for like phonics? What kind of curriculum do you have for math? What are you using for? And just fill in the blank, ask some open-ended questions. And I know I've asked this for years and it's not happening. It still isn't happening. And you're the ones who can make that happen by going out and finding some candidates so you don't have to come here on a Thursday night when you can be home with your family. I remember we had a candidate, endorsed her. She was a teacher in San Ysidro, Nancy Giralde. She drank the Kool-Aid. After 4 years, we found another candidate to replace her. And during the board members' comments, she said something. It was true then, and it needs to be true again. She said, SWATA can get you in and SWATA can get you out. Those were her exact words. I called her up the next morning at Smythe Elementary and said, Nancy, that's the nicest thing I've heard you say about SWATA in a long time. Thank you very much. We take it as a compliment. So to you out there tonight, go back to your classes, go back to your parents, find a candidate, one who will listen. Because I know the board members listen to the superintendent when he's talking about your raise. I don't think any of you have gone out and said to our teachers out here, the hardworking, dedicated teachers, tell me what you think about this raise. I just find that it's sad that I'm back here again. Although I love to hear, you know, when you've got a great class and things are going good and your team partners are cool and all that other stuff and going to lunch, I appreciate that. But I'd really rather not be here. My time is up. Thank you very much. And the ball is in your court. Take it and run with it.
Thank you, Frank. We are now on to the discussion action items. Okay, let's see, we are going to do item F first. Yes. The Citizens Bond Oversight Committee Annual Report is being brought to us. Oh, first of all, I am so sorry. I just know him. I'm going to recognize Assistant Superintendent. Sorry, Shane.
Love his
all right,
passion and
please.
eagerness. Thank you. Is this on? No, it's not. Oh, it's on, right? Yes. Good evening, President Ellsworth, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Espinosa, Exec Team and Community. South Bay Union School District hosts a Citizen Bonds Oversight Committee to review and oversee the use of voter-approved bond funds as required by Proposition 39 and Section 15278 of the Education Code. Committee bylaws require an annual report from the committee to the board for compliance with Prop 39. At this time, I'd like to welcome committee member and parent Shane Hoffus, if I pronounced that right, Hoffus, I did, all right, I think I got it wrong last year, who will present the annual report. Thank you.
The Citizens Bond Oversight Committee is pleased to present the annual report on the district's building program. Since the start of the district's building program with Measure X in 2008, the district has completed numerous projects to renovate and modernize classrooms, restrooms, and other school facilities. During their September 2022 meeting, the board authorized the issuance of the remaining 11.4 million Measure X dollars, allowing the district to continue its facilities modernization effort at various sites. The following facility upgrades and improvements were made using Measure X funds during the 2022-2023 school year. Bayside Elementary School, new walkway and fencing. Gate post was installed and flooring was replaced. Berry Elementary, new storm drain system and fencing. Portable building was removed. Sorry. I jumped ahead on that one. Am I in the right spot? Berry Elementary, new storm drain system and fencing. Portable building was removed and water sealer was applied to the exterior brick. Central Elementary, HVAC units were replaced and roof was repaired. Emory Elementary, playground perimeter fence, 2 baseball backstops and gate were installed. New cameras were purchased and seal coating was applied to the exterior brick. Imperial Beach Charter, new kinder playground was installed, concrete was repaired, and a fence was replaced. Mendoza Elementary, cabling was upgraded, HVAC was replaced, bathrooms demoed for abatement. Nikolov Elementary, asphalt was repaired, HVAC was replaced. Oneota Elementary, drainage improvements, asphalt was repaired, HVAC was replaced, safety rail was installed. Pence Elementary, tree removal, parking lot overlay, and portable building removal. Sorry, I jumped ahead of that one. There it is. And Sunny Slope Elementary, tree removal, new play turf, new playground, asphalt was repaired, carpet was replaced, roof was repaired. And Westview Friendship, seal coat was applied to exterior brick. And there with the new playground, very nicely. Funds were also used for a facility security and safety assessment and bond issuance costs. An annual review of expenditures and performance of the bond program was conducted by an independent audit firm, which yielded no findings, and it's consistent with the positive results of previous audits. We are looking forward to the positive impact that the district's facilities modernization efforts will have in our community, and thank you to all of the Bond Oversight Committee members.
Thank you. Thank you for the picture showing us what's been done. I appreciate it. Any questions? Thank you.
It is requested that the board approve the 22-23 Citizens Bond Oversight Committee annual report.
May I hear a motion to accept the annual report of the Citizens Oversight
So moved.
Bond Oversight Committee?
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Thank you.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Liker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Yes.
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
The on-site security resident program, we are here to address that at this point. So, are there any public comments on that? Comments from the public?
There are 12 public comments, which equals about 36 minutes. As this exceeds the 20-minute per topic limit, the board has the following options at this time. Increase the time allowed for public presentation to more than 20 minutes. If the board does not wish to increase the time per topic, the board must either decrease the time allotted to each speaker, ask speakers to select a speaker to represent the group, or conclude public comments at the 20-minute limit.
It's up to us at this point. What would you like to do? What would we like to do is the discussion now?
Extend the time.
extend the time.
Extend the time.
Okay, and I agree. So we have we don't need do we need a motion to do that? To extend the time? To include all 12 speakers?
I think you just extended, you polled the board and you had consensus.
Okay, we did. Okay, so indeed, we have 12 speakers. The board will take no action or discussion on any item at this time because it is the law. We listen. We're receiving information. Individual speakers are allowed 3 minutes. Please respect that because it's a chunk of time for your evening as well. Let's see, we're not allowing the speakers to yield their time to another speaker. And as you know, we will allow all 12 3 minutes each, so a total of 36 minutes. Let's start.
Fabian Hernandez.
Amy, would you please? Amy, could you act as our timekeeper, please?
For the 3 minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Please. Yeah, because the sign covers up the lights too. Oh, can I get that? Thank you. Okay.
Good evening, President Ellsworth and Board of Trustees. I want to start by thanking both the board and South Bay Union School District for allowing me to live on campus for several years and allowing me to hold the position of an on-site security resident. I take pride in serving my community and being part of our community and ensuring the safety of our campuses and my campus. I want to reiterate the importance of having an on-site security resident, how having this on campus is a deterrent for vandalism and break-ins. We are first responders to alarms and emergencies when needed. We provide lockout services to contractors and teachers and staff when necessary. Often, first ones to respond to emergencies. Some examples of security services that we provide that occur are finding and shutting off like a broken valve, irrigation valve that would occur, reporting them to principals and maintenance. The broken pipes will often occur during fall break or spring break or holidays when there's nobody at work. Principals and secretaries will often ask me to open and or close gates for teachers, staff, and outside contractors. Just this weekend, there was no substitute found on my campus, for my campus. And we are the extra help that keeps maintaining our campus's security. So doors were open, including the principal's door left ajar. And the flag was left up. We brought it down. I brought it down. Mendoza, the street gate is often left open by maintenance staff and contractors and trash companies, and on weekends on non-school days. And this is an operation that I constantly monitor. Recently, I received a notice that my security services will be replaced with technology. When I received this news, it made me sick to my stomach. Thinking and knowing that my investment, not only my home, but the investment in our community would be no longer warranted or obsolete or unnecessary. I have worked very hard in keeping up and maintaining my site. I've worked so hard to pay off my home and now faced with a new challenge of relocating. What am I supposed to do now? Where can I go? What will the costs that I will encounter? These are just some of the questions that are constantly at the forefront of my mind. Will I be homeless? About 2 months ago, the district sent a survey out to our staff regarding building homes for staff members at a low rate. The numbers in favor and outstanding.
Please finish your sentence.
technology is still not best as it is or it should be.
Excuse me, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are the boots on the ground. We are on the foreground. We are the first ones. And that's what I want to reiterate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Parsons,
I'm like Frank, I'd rather not be here. In fact, I hope never to attend another board meeting. I'm wasting time. My name is Mary Parsons. I live at 370 Calla Avenue. I'm the Westview security resident. If Westview is, I have no staff, I have no students, but I'm there. I've been there for 34 years. I bought my house and put it there. It's not, nobody left it to me. Nobody did anything like that. I am hoping that the administration and the board would consider an extension. I have a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home. And as I said, I've been there for 34 years. There is no way to get out of there in 6 months. I don't even know how I would. I've got a very big house, a lot of very big furniture because I had high ceilings. It's just an impossible situation for me, and I do understand the liability issues, and I do think that this is pretty much a done deal. But I know that and I paid the district $1,000 to destroy my home, my 4-bedroom home, when there are people sleeping on sidewalks. I mean, this is just, I feel that we would all need more time. I'm having to leave my home, my community. I can't afford to live in Imperial Beach. I look at, and there's no place in Imperial Beach that I could possibly move my home to. So I would very much appreciate a meeting on a possible extension. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Kim Delgado,
Good evening, IB Community, South Bay staff, board members, and administration. I'm speaking tonight on the subject of Agenda Item 8E, conclusion of the on-site security resident program, effective June 30th, 2024. I'm a teacher at Oneonta Elementary. I've worked in this district for 30+ years and at Oneonta for the past 18. I've seen teachers and classified staff come and go, principals come and go. And of course, hundreds of students move on from kindergarten through 6th grade. During this time, the one consistent person who has been at this school wearing the hats of PTA member, morning recess, lunch, and after-school duty, contributor to the Imperial Beach Eagle and Times newspaper, and of course, our on-site security resident is Pete Salisbury, or Mr. Pete, as staff and students fondly refer to him. TBR Consulting, Davy Architecture, Keenan and Associates, and Superintendent Espinosa are all recommending conclusion of the on-site security resident program. One quote from the various attachments states, many of these residents are dedicated in their support of the district, but not all of them are. Additionally, there was a statement that there was employment of survey questionnaires and site visits. A question for you, who exactly was surveyed? I know I wasn't. I know my colleagues were not. No one was asked for our input on whether our security resident, Mr. Pete, was effective, whether we felt safer on the campus because of his presence. The students and the staff are the stakeholders here, and yet we were not surveyed. We were not consulted. If we had been, the responses would have been as follows. For those of us who stay late on campus each day, donating our time to our class, school, and this district, as the sun sets outside, or who come in on the weekends or during vacations, why do we feel safe enough to do that, to come to a nearly empty campus ourselves? Because we know Mr. Pete will be available to us if we get locked out of our room, if something seems out of sorts on campus, if there are persons trespassing on our campus, tagging up the school, trying to break into rooms, all things that have happened, by the way. We know that he is a text, phone call, or literally steps away to assist and provide us with the safety that we need. The previously mentioned companies say again, I quote, the implementation of technology is far more effective. They speak of cameras and geofencing. They claim that these technology options make the presence of security residents no longer required. Yet they also say, and I quote, the cost of concluding the program is unknown at this time due to a number of variables. They present no amount for the cost of these cameras or geofences, no suggestion as to when they would be purchased or installed, who would monitor them. There are so many questions and no answers provided. The on-site residency program may not be running well at all sites, but at ours it is. I suggest that you proceed with looking into the options using a scalpel, not a chainsaw. Where it is not working, pilot the suggestions made by those wishing to cancel the program. Where it is working, such as at Oneonta, don't fix what isn't broken. Mr. Pete is an integral part of Oneonta School. If you remove him as our on-site security resident, you will be pulling up the roots of our school, causing irreparable damage to our school community. Thank you.
Thank you. Janelle Miller.
Hi, board members, superintendent. My name is Janelle Miller, and I am a proud teacher at Oneonta Elementary School and have been for over 25 years. On item E tonight on our agenda, it says that one of our assistant superintendents is going to introduce some gentlemen to you who would like to give you a presentation so that you can approve to end our on-site security resident program. And those gentlemen may or may not give you some thought-provoking points to think about. However, after reading through all of the documentation given, all of these, exhibit 1, 2, 3, from the respective companies, I would like to offer you a different perspective, a human perspective from people who are actually currently being protected, looked after, and kept secure by this so-called obsolete program. Oneonta is a very special place. And Mr. Pete, as he is called by thousands, is a very rare breed of human. An amazing person. He has a work ethic stronger than anyone I know. His dedication, his commitment, and his unwavering connection to the Oneonta community cannot be duplicated by an outside agency, an alarm system, new wave technology, laser beams. This man has a huge heart and he cares deeply about the families, the children, the staff, the neighbors, the entire community around the Oneonta and VIP Village areas. I understand that we are always looking for better ways to make our schools more efficient, to make them safer, to save money. But taking this man away from this particular job is definitely not something I think you really want to do. We have the most perfect recipe for success over at Oneonta, and Mr. Pete has been the first person on the scene, as you've heard from my colleague so many times. He is literally the reason that we have so few issues on our campus, because he is there most of the time, first one before things can happen. We talk so much in education about differentiation, and I honestly think that this is such a perfect example of why and how differentiation should actually be used. If you're going to do something huge and go with an agency technology, laser beams to protect our school, I implore you to please roll this program out after much consideration to maybe 1 or 2 schools at a time, where maybe they might need a little bit more help than we do. In our case, our school is safer, our staff is safer, our community is safer because of this one individual that is sitting behind me. If you have to roll this out to all of our schools, I beg you to make Oneonta phase B or C or D, E, F, or G. We are in the best hands possible right now, and I ask you to really consider this in your decision-making. South Bay as an entire unit has been looking for amazing personnel to fill so many empty jobs right now. I am asking you to please not do away with an amazing person who is already here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lisa Corrales.
Good evening, board members, Mr. Espinosa. My name is Lisa Corrales. I am a residing member of the Imperial Beach community. I am a parent to a 2nd grader and a 5th grader at Oneonta Elementary School. And I have been a staff member since 2007 and currently teaching kindergarten. I'm your triple threat. I am here to ask that you do not include Mr. Peter Salisbury, Oneonta's on-site security resident, in a sweeping vote to eliminate all SBUSD on-site security positions and housing. I ask that you find and fund the necessary general liability coverage for Mr. Salisbury and permit him to maintain residence at his current location at Oneonta Elementary until his retirement. I'll address your arguments and concerns. The Oneonta family is happy to donate time and assets to remedy issues with building codes. We will also enthusiastically postpone opening up increased site access between classrooms and outdoor play space. Mr. Salisbury has no fire hazards and does not require automotive coverage. He has access to students as all of us paid fingerprinted Oneonta staff members do. Students have never accessed his residence, nor has the gate ever been left in the open position. This is Mr. Pete we're talking about. He has no large animals, unless you count the occasional gigantic mother skunk and her babies that he securely and humanely keeps safe until he passes them to animal control. He does not break policies. And as to your opinion of what qualifies a residence that has an unattractive appearance or might reflect poorly upon the district, I think we need to check our privilege and our priorities. Mr. Salisbury maintains his site properly. He is motivated, dedicated, capable, and properly trained. He is equipped and supported as he appropriately performs security functions across 2 campuses. In August, Mr. Espinosa, you sent a survey which acknowledged staff difficulty in finding affordable local housing, and you claimed you needed our critical input to make the best decisions on behalf of our employees and our district. And tonight you're moving to evict Oneonta's most valued personnel. On Monday, Mr. Espinosa, you sent an email thanking all veterans and their families for their service. As a veteran, Mr. Salisbury will spend his day off tomorrow trying to figure out how to avoid becoming another one of the 67,495 homeless veterans, how to avoid becoming part of the 70% of California's unsheltered veterans. Please don't add to this shameful number.
Thank you. Pete Salisbury.
Thank you. I guess I can skip a whole lot of my comments here since a lot of it's been covered. But I'd like to say good evening, trustees and Superintendent Espinoza. I'm not sure if everyone is aware what services the resident security provide to those or how those duties could be done by other district employees or outside agencies, since the residents work evenings, overnight, weekends, breaks, holidays, and even pandemics. For the past 19 years, I've been the Oneonta and VIP resident security. I'm on call from sundown to sunrise, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Under the current contract, I'm required to do an evening security check 1 hour before sunset. I pay the South Bay Unified School District for my utilities and carry my own insurance, including $100,000 in comprehensive personal liability insurance as per our contract. So there's no financial cost to the district for my services. I am also a certified school security officer. I have never received or had a need improvement evaluation. If a liability or a problem with my job performance had been brought to my attention, I would have immediately made corrections. Former Oneonta School Principal Marla Fernandez said the following: as a site principal, having a security resident gave me peace of mind each day when I left the campus. Several times, Mr. Salisbury would inform me of any safety or security issues during the evening via phone call, email, or in person the following day, depending on the level of concern. During my 9-year tenure at Oneonta, Mr. Salisbury was a valuable asset to the security of the school, students, and faculty. During any vandalism or burglary attempts, he would be the first responder to the authorities, which again provided a valuable extra layer of security. His visibility on campus after hours was evident through his reporting of security breaches, and as a principal, having a security resident on hand and knowing that Mr. Salisbury served in that role for the campus provided a sense of comfort. The neighbors around my school, especially the ones who don't have children attending here, appreciate my presence. I'm asked about traffic problems, including blocked driveways, etc. I'm asked to help in retrieving items lost over the fences, either by the neighbors into the school or items thrown over from the school, including balls, lunch boxes, and a few shoes. I feel I'm a valuable asset to my school, to the South Bay Unified School District, and to the community at large. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. P.
Sandra Alvarez.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Espinosa, and community members. My name is Sandra Alvarez, and I am a teacher at Nestor Language Academy. I am here to address the elimination of security residents at school sites. I'm here to speak on behalf of all security residents, and specifically on behalf of my mother. As we have not yet found the courage to share this devastating news, since she is still grieving the loss of our father, and we just laid him to rest 2 days ago. My parents have been law-abiding, dedicated security residents for 28 years. They have always checked the school at required times. They have asked students to leave the property, reported vandalism, locked unopened doors. The most recent just this last weekend. They have helped countless teachers with a variety of needs not stipulated in the contract. They even walked the principal to her vehicle on a weekend after dark. I read all three of the partial consultant reports that were made available, and I can see how in their view, these individuals are no longer relevant and thus should be removed to make way for technologies that supplant humans. I have read all quote unquote violations of residents are accused of. My parents have never received one single communication from anyone regarding any concerns of their job performance or adherence to the contract. In addition, they have had liability insurance for decades. They do not have any animals. They have always kept their property in good condition, continually battling the food wrappers and dead leaves that constantly blow onto their property from the school playground. My mother has never been a district employee, but that was not a concern of the district when she purchased the home 28 years ago. The district had no objection to them purchasing the property from the previous owner. In today's housing crisis, where people cannot afford to pay rent, much less purchase a home, you're asking the residents to move their homes off school property, a cost that we have investigated could be around $25,000. Most mobile home parks do not have vacant spots to move your homes to. My parents' life savings went into buying this home. She will lose all of her investment. With many of these residents on fixed incomes, do you honestly think they can now pay 10 times what they have budgeted for? Could you pay 10 times your housing? Could you pay 10 times what you're currently paying for your housing? I would guess that the answer is no. Many of the residents could be left homeless. I am extremely disappointed with the district's apparent lack of humanity, the disregard of these people that have served you with loyalty. I ask you, the school board, who has the power to reject the district's plan to end the security resident program. Instead, you should direct the district to first look at alternatives, such as ways to address the concerns listed on those reports, or prolong a realistic phasing out program, one that offers residents the opportunity to explore available options without kicking them out to the street in $1 million real estate economy.
Thank you. Jennifer Rico.
Hello to the board and Mr. Superintendent. Thank you so much for hearing us tonight. I am the security resident at Bayside STEAM Academy. My family has lived at Bayside STEAM Academy. We are the very first security resident that was ever there. My grandfather placed our trailer there in the 1970s when this program first began. And I am now the third generation of our family who has cared for Bayside STEAM Academy 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We have caught people breaking in live. We have watched the police come and assisted as the sheriff has walked them off in handcuffs because we were there to catch them as soon as the alarm rang. We have stopped vandalization in progress, kids with spray cans in their hands, escorted them off the campus. We monitor that with it's like our second home. I grew up there. I've lived there since I was 10 years old. I've raised all my children there, and they have all grown up knowing the importance of taking care of not only the school, but of their community. I would like to implore the district to please consider letting us stay, considering other options of how we can work around the issues that this company that wants to charge you who knows how much money to replace us when we pay for our own utilities. We carry our own insurance on our cars and our homes at whatever limit you guys have requested it of us, far above what we need to pay. And we do that willingly because we care about the school and we care about our job. If you guys do decide that this is a done deal and you will throw us to the curbside, I implore you to please, please consider extending the timeline. 6 months is not enough time. For those of us who have not paid rent ever, we have no rental history. We're gonna go out and try to rent somewhere. We can't even afford rent. We've never had to pay rent. And now in this market where minimum $3,000 to $4,000, we're gonna have to uproot our children from this community that they have grown up in, that they have grown up taking care of and been contributing members of this community. My grandfather worked for the district. My mother worked for the district. My father worked for the district. My oldest daughter is a teacher in the LA community charter district. We are committed to the education system and to caring for it. And we implore you to please reconsider what they are suggesting, that we are replaceable by technology. We give a human element that is so crucial and important. And I implore you to consider the ethical causes that will happen of displacing people on fixed incomes who have no other resources in the economy that we are in today. We need time at a bare minimum to obtain second, third jobs, whatever it is going to be necessary to now care for our families, as we have been given 6 months to do this. I just beg you to please rethink everything that these people are presenting to you and all that we bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Maya Leisure.
To whom this may concern with the Board of Trustees and any insurance reps that are here tonight. My name is Maya Leisure, and I am a current South Bay employee. I am here to speak about this on-site security resident program. Long before I was in transportation, I was a security professional. When I first moved to San Diego, I worked in operations for a few of San Diego's leading security companies. I trained guards and I supervised the accounts for the properties for the southernmost region, and that's this region. So, one of the things that occurred often is that if a client decided to rely solely on their camera system, they would call our company back within a matter of months to have standing guards placed on site. The simple act of having a presence deters crime. The security residents provide this presence. In the district level recommendations report by Davy on page 3, it was stated that technology options far surpass limited on-site observations by the residents. I find this statement to be highly misleading. No matter how advanced camera systems are, if they are not continuously monitored, they are only good for one thing: showing you what happened after the fact. If the internet disconnects, or if there's an electrical issue, cameras and security systems always malfunction. No system can replace the human senses of sight, sound, smell, visual resolution, or gut instinct. When reading through the Keenan Insurance Assessment, most of the findings that were displeasing can be remedied by revamping the program. Have the members sign liability waivers, understanding their exclusions, holding the district harmless. The district will always be able to find a loophole for a program they wish to keep. In the packet I handed you, I have constructed a rough draft of a liability waiver as an example. Furthermore, the second to last paragraph of the Keenan assessment reads that South Bay Union School District should strongly consider whether this program continues to provide a level of security greater than exposure. With my involvement and background in security, it is my belief that continuing this program outweighs the cost associated with ending it. Without really, pardon me, without revealing the name of the district, I contacted 3 security companies for an anonymous quote. I want to give everyone here an idea of just how much it will cost us all if we discontinue the program and find that we do need security. The average quote was $28.50 per hour. say the district needs coverage from 4 p.m. till 8 a.m. Monday through Friday and over the weekends. That's an average of $2,276,000, 350 cents per year. That number doesn't include a holiday or summertime schedule. These residents, may I continue? It's like 30 seconds more. These residents have been saving the district millions from the beginning. Included in the packet I handed you are two of the security quotes I was able to obtain on short notice for your review. You should ask yourself just how comfortable you are exposing our schools to the things that can and will occur if we end the program. With all the numbers I've fixated over researching, it would effectively cost the district less to replace the dilapidated mobile residences and revamp the program than it would be to end it. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank Villagrana.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, trustees, and Superintendent Espinosa. My name is Frank Villagrana, retired district employee with 39 years experience in facilities and maintenance department. And I am currently the on-site resident at Emory School. My last 27 years in the district, I responded to many calls from the residents at all hours during this time. I was fortunate to have residents help me in the middle of the night, and most of the time, San Diego PD or sheriffs were already on site, thanks to them. They will also jump in to help me get windows boarded up, clean up the mess left behind, as well as securing the school and be ready for the students the next morning. All of this was at no cost to the district, including my time, as I was a manager. Even with the outdated surveillance equipment and the residence program, we have many arrests over the years, and we never had any legal issues. Installing a state-of-the-art equipment like at Emory is a huge improvement, but it comes with a cost. You just mentioned the over $2 million per year. I didn't know that. Thank you. Employee overtime, 5 minutes of their time is a callback time, is actually 3 hours over a regular time for CSEA contract. This new equipment does not close or lock doors and windows, and does not educate people when they're trespassing. And let's not forget, this new equipment doesn't assist teachers during off hours. As we all know, teachers spend a lot of their own time getting classrooms ready for the new school year, and during the school year, they work on weekends and late hours to prepare the classrooms. They occasionally request assistance from us, and they are grateful and feel safe knowing that we're there for them. This new technology at Emory, recently I found 5 doors. Please take a look at the footage if you can. I found 5 doors unlocked. One of them was wide open. 4 doors were relatively close to these new high-tech cameras. One of them was the ballroom, covered by 3 cameras. The ball cart was in the middle of the playground. I pushed the car back into the unlocked room, and I locked the door. My point is, this new equipment does not lock doors or do any of these extra things that we do. Human errors is common, let's put it that way. We all know that. I take pictures constantly and send them items that need repair and send them to the school staff. We have some issues at Emory right now that need to be addressed. I have a whole page. I'll skip to the end. For the most of us, moving our homes will not only be a financial burden, and most of them have been in place for 50 years, and the homes may not be a structural sound to move, and will instead be a total loss for us, and come with a high cost to them and them on site to prepare the land for the district. I respectfully request, like Mary Parsons, additional time. probably 3 years to get things up and ready for us to move. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. John Erickson.
Hello, I'm John. We've been a resident here at the school district now for 40 years. And we've had an awful lot of things we've seen come and go. My beautiful bride Cindy down there, we've been married now for, I just think about, I think it's 76 years. And well, I have to explain that too, because even though you're all educators, you may wonder how we've been married for 76 years. I've been married to her for 38. She's been married to me for 38. All right. So anyway, it's very disappointing. We've been here all of these years. We've done everything that's been asked of us and more. We had planned on being able to retire when we're ready to in this home. When I pass, I want to be able to have my bride have a place that she can call home. It's quite unbelievable that the district would consider throwing us out of our home. We will become people who live on the streets like so many other elderly. We have no place to move to. We have no money to move there with. The average home rent in mobile home parks now is around $2,500 a month. It's just not possible. Yet the school district is considering throwing us out. After they throw us out, I'm certain the school district will seize our home, all of our furnishings, everything that belongs to us, and put use to it. This is not fair to us. It's not fair to the other residents. We've all worked hard. All we want is what we thought we had guaranteed to us, is a home to live in and a job to do. That's all we ask. Please do not throw us out onto the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Sims. This is the last public comment.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. My name is Greg Sims. I work for the South Bay Union School District. I'm a former firefighter in San Bernardino County. As such, I have always admired the fact that South Bay School District, the on-site resident security program. I'm not only a fire safety, but I shared widespread security for the schools and surrounding properties as well, just by being there. The people that in the mobile home site. I myself, a mobile home park. I live there. Mobile homes were never meant to be moved multiple times. They were meant to be moved once, settled like a regular house. If I inspected one of the houses in your neighborhoods, I could find just as many flaws to items that you would with a mobile home. I'm going to ask the district what accommodations would be made for the people who own them and their investments. Would it be just disappear because they are government property? Will the district offer compensation for their value? What is the plan? However, upon further research, I discovered the disturbing if a mobile home was built before 1980 and it cannot be moved on the streets of California, it would have to be destroyed. The moving cost for the district, for the ones that above that, would be 20 to 40,000 per unit. And because of the government land, the homeowners could be fleeced out of compensation. I think it's a terrible idea to get rid of watchful eye and kick people out of their homes. Let's fix the outdated program instead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you submit a blue card?
Well, let's invite her up. Give her a blue card so she can fill it up quickly. Good. Thank you. So come on up. Come on up. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, good. You have a pen. Good.
Okay, so, I am the security resident at the maintenance and Berry School. I have worked ever since she was born, at the kitchens, feeding all the kids, and I know Sheriff Loomis and knows how hard we work. Anyways, I was not aware that there were any problems. They could have come to me and told me that if there was a problem, I would have fixed it. And I have a dog, but she's an inside dog, and I feed the cats. I don't know if they're feral cats. So I'm afraid if we leave, who's going to take care of those cats? And also, the crime is on the rise. So why would you want to get rid of the people that are there? I have pictures of a guy climbing over that big giant fence. And I was like, okay, what do? We got to call the police. I caught two teenagers trying to have sex in one of the sheds that was left open. And I'm like, no, that's not the place where we do that. I call the police. Sometimes they say they're too busy because now I don't know if they're defunding the police or whatever it is. They don't come all the time. I had to call Laura many times, and she's had to come and, help me with situations like someone was trying to open up a bus and take parts out of a bus. Where we live, there's buses, there's gas, there's tools, all kinds of tools. There's fuel. Yes. And in the middle of the night, the alarm will go off, the fire alarm, and who's there to go in there and turn it off? I'm sure somebody, this lady here, I even almost ran her out because she was there one weekend. And I'm like, what are you doing here? There's things that happen that only a human person can catch. And there's always an open gate or an unlocked door, always. And like they said, who's gonna find that unless we do it ourselves? So, and I do let kids come over and play soccer. They practice, but I was told at the very beginning, I think it was Kenny, it's a public park, treat it like a public park. And then I was told, oh, you can't have kids over there. So what is it? So I will do what it takes. I just ordered a stove that's hard to replace, and it took forever to get it. Now I can't use it. So or can you give us time? I mean, can you think about what you're doing? Because the tools add up to millions of dollars over there. Yeah, heavy machinery. Thank you.
I would like to thank all of you for attending and expressing your concerns. Thank you. Now I would like to recognize Superintendent Rigolata.
Good evening, President Ellsworth, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Espinosa, Exec Team, and Community. The district has contracted with on-site security residents at our school sites and departments since the 1970s. Current security residents signed three-year agreements in 2021, and they are set to expire on December 31st, 2023. The program was intended to provide a level of security, and just some of their responsibilities include on-site daily security checks. Examples of what is supposed to happen during these checks include ensuring the gates, doors, windows are locked, securing areas as necessary, and noting any concerns such as loitering, evidence of vandalism, and other possible damage. Residents live rent-free in exchange for this service, although they do pay monthly for utilities. You are familiar with this journey. To improve as a system, we must constantly reflect and embrace change if change is needed. During the reflection phase, we assessed our existing facilities to determine what was meeting the needs of our community and what required refinement. Reassessments of our facilities were prepared over the past 18 months or so. DAV Architecture developed a facilities master plan. TBR Consulting conducted its district-wide facility security assessment, and Keenan Associates provided a risk evaluation of the on-site security resident program. We are currently in the redefining, moving towards the rebuilding phase. Each assessment revealed concerns and challenges with the program. Our Keenan partners and legal team will go more in depth. That will be coming up shortly. And also the assessments have been included as exhibits provided to you and the community. So here we have a couple of main points from the evaluations. I won't read them all, but I'll read a couple of the quotes. From the facilities master plan, with the shift to current security technology, primarily through the use of cameras, security residents are no longer required. From TBR Consulting and the facility security assessment, I feel the resident program is a huge liability for the district. It is not accomplishing the expectations of the program. The implementation of technology is far more effective. Keenan Associates is here to go more in depth on their concerns. They will be speaking on specifically the liability concerns. They have mentioned possible fire hazards and the proximity to students as challenges, and the use of modern technology, not necessarily just cameras, but other technology that can support our district-wide initiative of safety and security. At this time, I would like to ask Greg Trapp from Keenan Associates to come up.
Good evening, members of the board. We were actually asked to do kind of a two-pronged approach to an analysis of this program for you. The first part I can handle, and I can handle any insurance questions. The second part, I'm going to have the Director of Loss Control, Diana Poland, kind of address. The first piece in the presentation, first off, you are insured through a joint powers authority, which is all educational entities, all schools, about 90 in Southern California. Unfortunately, as it stands now, education insurance for educational agencies excludes residential dwellings. So for all of the residential dwellings, if a lawsuit were to occur that named the district, there would unfortunately be no coverage, which would mean you would be self-funding any litigation. The second piece to the insurance part, which I have heard others speak to, there is a requirement of, I believe it's $100,000 for the homeowners to retain insurance. That does sound like a lot, but unfortunately in today's day and age, $100,000 isn't quite adequate for a lawsuit against a school district. What also would have to happen legally, you would have to have what's called an additional insured endorsement, so that their insurance company would also provide the coverage to the district, which in this case would be $100,000. To put it in perspective, you folks as a district, when it's not excluded, have $50 million of coverage. So unfortunately, $100,000 probably won't get far, although it does sound like a lot, but it probably wouldn't get very far. So I'm going to have our Director of Loss Control, Diana Poland, address the issues that took place or that she found during the assessment.
Hi. So I wanted to also talk a little bit about the technology that's involved. So I've heard a lot of comments about different cameras and things like that. Cameras are much more robust than what they used to be. There's a lot of artificial intelligence that goes along with it that can be programmed specifically to see if there is a door that's left open. There are sensors that can be placed onto like water pipes and things like that, that will give an immediate notification on, you know, a cell phone or an iPad or something along those lines so that you can catch those things immediately. There's also different types of those types of sensors for other types of things. There's noise sensors, there's smoke sensors, there's all kinds of different sensors that are available out there. And so there's a lot of different.
Excuse me, can I just pause you for a second?
Yes.
I'd like to respectfully ask everybody to keep the noise down. This is a very important topic, and it is going to have a huge impact on a lot of people. You guys have all heard that today. And it is important that everybody can hear what is being reported. It's great that we hear, you know, the public comments, and that was great, and really appreciate those, but it is really important that we hear from the experts in the field what the report is, and it's really important that the board can hear it. So I'm just gonna ask, please quiet down so that everybody can hear what is being said, including our residents.
There are also automatic door locks that can also, as soon as the door is closed, it will automatically lock the door. So there's lots of different types of technology that are available. Obviously, when this technology first came out, it was very expensive, but as technology grows and grows, those price tags come down. And so I'm the person who actually conducted the risk assessment for Keenan and Associates. So I also just wanted to acknowledge those items. So number one is the access to students that, you know, not just residents have, but anyone who visits a resident or something along those lines when we don't have control over that. Also, again, students having access to the residence areas, and then that can be an issue as well. We have noticed several residences who had fire hazards that were on their sites, including like overgrown vegetation and things like that. Structure improvements as well that went against the contract, and also probably are not permitted, that actually go outside of the fence lines. So it could be a hazard, you know, for something falling or something like that onto students. And of course, even it's just the overall safety of the residents themselves. And I heard mention that in this day and age, we have a lot of, there's been a lot more criminal activity on school sites. There's also a lot more violent criminal activity, so that also puts your residents at risk. So, and then we already kind of went over the security with the sensors and all of that, so. Any questions?
Well, my ongoing question is the cost, the maintenance, the cost, the maintenance, and the cost, because as it has been mentioned. So that's my question. Yes?
Oh, sorry,
Well-
we're gonna ask a question.
Okay.
I'm gonna have Tyree Dorward come up. When he finishes, then you can ask both groups questions that you may have.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. So now let's ask
Okay.
Ty come up.
Good evening, trustees, Superintendent Espinoza. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. In talking to Mr. Espinoza and Mr. Lara in prepping for this conversation, I think some of what they wanted me to cover is a little bit of our firm's involvement with the district and our involvement in the history of the statutory authority that allows this program, as well as what the district has done. So under the Ed Code, the district is allowed to maintain mobile home sites on a school site. You have authority to do that on terms and conditions that the board sets, and the board may reevaluate from time to time. As Mr. Lara observed, you have current contracts that expire on December 31st. The current contracts have terms that have evolved over my time at Best and Krieger. I had assisted, previous administration 10 plus years ago or so in trying to tighten some of the terms. It does appear that some of the issues that are referred to tonight are difficulties and challenges associated with enforcing those contract terms. I do think the structure, the overall structure, and a question that that Mr. Espinoza asked me in the very first conversation was, how common are these? They're not common. You know, in my time, I've been aware of a couple other districts in San Diego County that have had these. Most of those have now been, you know, phased out over time. So it's not a real common program, number one. Number two, it is a very old statute, and the original stated, you know, legislative purpose for this was the active monitoring of school sites to primarily at that point in time, obviously most of the crime we were talking about is vandalism and everything else. Another historical thing that Mr. Lara and Mr. Espinoza asked me about, I think some of those other districts were primarily more rural in nature. And so those are all, I think, elements that went into policy decisions as to why districts would have these programs, why they would make sense for a district. And then I think they also go to what contractual terms and conditions the board might place on such a program, because it is within the board's discretion, as I said, to place, you know, appropriate terms and conditions for what is, you know, essentially a residential use of a school site, which is a public education use. And that, I think, is inherently one of the difficulties with a school district or administering these programs is you're administering a residential, almost landlord-tenant type relationship. Obviously, we've heard from the comments, and I was aware that many of these residents are long-term. The contractual relationships are far beyond just the contract themselves, and they're very long-term relationships, you know, with families or members of the community. So I think what that poses, and in my conversations with Mr. Espinoza and Mr. Lara, is it poses some of the issues that I think you've seen. Enforcement challenges, risk transfer challenges with enforcing the contract terms. What can you do more than what you've already done? And the truth of that, and the truth of some of what, you know, the Keenan report and the other expert evaluations that you've heard, is that some of the risk will remain inherent, regardless of how tight you make your contract. There was a comment earlier about waivers and releases. Your contracts already have basic insurance and indemnification requirements. As Mr. Trapp observed, there will be a limit to what those protections would provide in the case of an actual incident. And unfortunately, as a lawyer to bash on lawyers, we live in a very litigious society. And as you're well aware, the district is exposed to claims from a variety of sources that you all experience on a daily basis. So I think those are some of the things that I wanted to speak to. I think the other point in highlighting on this slide, at the core of this issue, when I have seen it brought up, and with regard to your contracts, the core policy decision is, what is the cost and risk to the district as the district and the board evaluates it versus what is the benefit to the district? And that ultimately drives your contract terms, how you choose to enforce them, and how you would choose to operate a program such as this on your school site, within your discretion as the Board of Trustees. Do you want me to speak to the next slide too, or do you want? Okay, we go on to the next slide then. So Mr. Lara also asked me to speak to this slide. I think the question that, and one of the issues that was brought up in some of the earlier comments, is how would the district move forward with this? What would happen next? I think the best advice that we would give at this point is staff would work with your legal consultants, us, as well as your other facilities experts. You would take a look at what are the legal and practical issues associated with the phase out of the program, and that would include all of the issues I think that were previously mentioned in terms of timing, costs, et cetera. You would try to develop a plan that is reasonable to the district and all the parties involved, and then you would work with our office and your other consultants to develop what that plan would look like in writing and how you would roll that out. And obviously, any of that action would certainly be something that would need to come back to the board for approval, given that you have current contracts that will be expiring and you will need to take an appropriate discretionary action to continue programs, extend programs, or phase out programs.
Now, if you have any questions, they can help you.
Well, thank you for holding me back, because now I would like to wait, because seeing that there is the opportunity to develop a plan and then have that brought back, the questions I have could be answered there at that time, not necessarily here when you're like don't have all the information perhaps. Okay. So anybody else have a question? Please.
So I guess I would like to have more information regarding, if our residents did obtain the guard cards, if they did have proper training, like, it seems like we have many who are willing to do the extra steps to become compliant. And, when it says here, you know, to develop a plan that's reasonable to all parties, how do we really make that happen? I don't know if that's you guys I talked to or we talked to here or.
Well, I think the easy answer from my perspective is that would be up to the board. I mean, the plan to your point would have to come back to the board. The board would have the opportunity to review and comment on it. I think all of the issues you're describing would be questions you would ask of that plan.
Yeah.
And staff and consultants would have to potentially adapt the plan, change the plan, depending on the direction from the board. Really, the plan itself would not be inconsistent with your existing authority and right to manage your properties and specify the terms and conditions for the program to continue.
So it's possible to maintain this program with things changing and us and the school, as a school district, not be liable for any or held negligent completely, right? So it's possible?
I don't know if Greg wants to answer this separately. I think the way that I would describe it and the point that was on my specific legal slide before is no matter what we put in the contract and no matter what the terms are, there will always be some risks inherent and some possibility of claims. If a claim occurs, then you have an issue with the insurance coverage for such a claim. There will always be an element of risk in all of our own individual lives every day. We get in our cars and we drive. Our car insurance policies have limits. Limits don't govern our liability if we get in a car accident. Our policy limits don't govern our liability. If we cause an injury greater than our policy limit, we have liability for that damage. And that, what I think was the point that Mr. Trapp was trying to make, is that if the policy limits are set where they at and there's a claim that goes above and beyond policy limits that provide coverage to the district will be the backstop for the potential backstop for liability in such a circumstance.
Right, and the backstop is if the contract has $100,000 limits and those are exhausted, it would then come and fall to the district. And unfortunately, as it stands right now, there's no coverage under these JPAs that provide, school district coverage. What Ty was referring to, and there's a very good example without going into details, recently there was a verdict against a school district for $138 million. They had $50 million of coverage. So they are uninsured for about $88 million of the lawsuit. So as much insurance as they had, it still wasn't enough. It's going to fall back to their general fund. Now, I'm sure the school district is going to appeal the verdict, things like that. But those are just the kind of things that you gotta.
But that could happen even if we were relying on technology as well, right?
Potentially, I'm not the technology expert. I'm your insurance guy. I will say though, with technology, there is no exclusion in the policy if something were to go wrong. Unfortunately, right now, it's the residential dwellings that are creating the issue with insurance and protection to the district. So, and again, that's your decision to make. That's, executive cabinet's decision to make. We're simply, providing the information on how to deal with it. So.
And just, can I add a little clarity to that, just to your question? Yes, even with technology, the district, there's always a, to Ty's point, there's always a level of liability that we have, right? Always. But with technology, we have a $50 million coverage that covers the district. With this, we have no coverage. That's the difference, right? With
We have no
technology.
coverage. We just have their coverage. Well, I mean, I have a paint party business and I have to have a $4 million aggregate with my little paint party business and I could do that, you know? So I think like there has to be some options and it feels like people are willing to work around them.
Again, that's a decision for the district to change any contract. As it stands now, though, it is 100,000. I am not a homeowner's State Farm agent, but I do believe they could purchase little higher limits than 100,000. But I don't think you can get to 50 million.
Greg, and can I just have a question on that? So I know you're not farmers or whoever does home insurance, but you are a district person. So if we were able to ask our security residents to get additional coverage, what amount of coverage would that have to be?
Well, I think the limits they can probably get under homeowners, if they were to go to the high end, they could probably get an underlying policy that had 1 to 2 million, and they would buy an umbrella on top of that. I think I've seen 5 and maybe 10, but it's probably in the $5 million range. Again, I work with reinsurance carriers and not the homeowners market, but I believe those are about limits you could get. So you're talking $5 to $7 million limits. And again, as Ty pointed out, the documents would have to provide protection to the district so that if the resident was sued and the district was sued, that the resident's insurance policy would defend and indemnify the district. That way, the fact that you do not have any current coverage, it's excluded, you're protected that way. The problem is, again, if it's a $50 million lawsuit, then you just don't have enough, and that's got to deal with it then. But
So
does that
is
answer your
that
question, Superintendent?
a little bit? Yeah. Is that the general, and I don't know all school districts, right? Is that the general coverage for the school districts? Is that the general recommendation?
That limit?
50 million? Yeah.
So yeah, to put it in perspective, $50 million is what every single school district in the state of California has. There's an argument as to whether 50 is too much or 50 is not enough. We do have lawsuits that are currently popping up for new legislation that are popping up from the 90s, where school districts carried $5 and $10 million of liability limits, which is why this $138 million verdict was so substantial, because they only carried 5 at the time. We might come back in 20 years from now, well, likely not me, but 20 years from now, you might have a lawsuit against South Bay Union School District that is a $100 million lawsuit. It would be the policy that you have in place this year that protects you, $50 million. So you would be uninsured in 20 years for the other 50 million. But generally speaking, everybody has $50 million currently. I believe in the near future, it's going to jump to 75 because of the verdicts that are happening out there. And Ty could probably speak to the other verdicts, but it's probably going to jump up to 75 here pretty soon.
Greg, I have another question. So let's say there is a lawsuit and, we have a $50 million, just regular, right? We have $50 million coverage and we get a lawsuit for $100 million. Obviously our general fund cannot cover 50 million, obviously. What happens to school districts at that point?
Well, I'm not the expert, but I think you would have to you're going back to the state and potentially you're asking the state for a loan and potentially bankrupt. We've talked about this over the last couple of years, what would happen to a district. The 2 biggest lawsuits I can think about right now were the Riverside one from a couple of weeks ago, 138 million. Last year, there was a $102 million verdict, and those would bankrupt districts. I don't think there's any way. The $102 million one was a very small district, and they would not be able to cover the other 52 million that they owe as a part of the verdict. So.
And if I can just clarify that second bullet, to develop a plan that is reasonable to all parties, that would be a transition plan. So if approved, it would be a reasonable transition plan that's for the parties, a transition plan for and concluding the program.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you so much for coming this evening. Appreciate your work and your time. Thank you, Superintendent, for bringing this valuable resource to the board's attention.
Thank you.
Valuable because I was here before I even started, so I've seen you grow and I've seen the work that you do. And the coverage that you've provided not only for our school staff, but our community. I want to say that you are valued. You're valued not only by your staff, but the community that you surround yourself with and love so much. Artificial intelligence cannot replace you. I'm concerned about the people that have been here so long. One speaker spoke about rent history. I would be nervous about that too. So that's on my list for you. The liability waivers, I was impressed with the information about you do have homeowners insurance. So I'm glad to hear that because that was not shared with me. I'm concerned about people calling the police and the police not coming. Well, we don't have a contract with the police. You are the police. I did visit Emory School a week or so ago, and their security residence looks fabulous. I've been around in this district so many times, I can't tell you how many miles I put on my tennis shoes, but I'm telling you, Oneonta is pretty fine, and so is Westview. So is Betty. I can name all the schools. The contract, the board was not privy to the contract 3 years ago. I'm concerned that, through generations on generations, I'm just sharing that if the contract reads that you're an employee of the district, that's my assumption. So if you're not an employee, I think there's a cause for concern, especially when we have risk management here speaking to our risk factor. So that's a concern. The $160 for utilities back in the day was a lot of money. Okay, $160 was a lot of money for even for a space rental for a mobile home. But times have changed, but the expectations haven't. Technology has changed. We have a school that is being monitored and secured, but a limited student. I'm concerned about the cost going forward and eliminating a program that serves us a strong need. I'm very mindful of the risk management. I understand the JPA and the rules all around insurance and the coverage that our district has to hold for each and every one of you and all of us. And the impact and effect of someone suing us could close us down. So as a board member, this is really hard. As a community member, it's even harder. As somebody that knows you, it breaks my heart. So with that, Madam President,
would you like to make a motion to approve the conclusion of the on-site security resident program?
Madam President, first, I want to know who they are. Who is the person that's going to be checking the app on your phone when the buzzer goes off? Who? What? Superintendent?
I'm not understanding the question.
Somebody's got to be responsive to the bell. Okay, the sensor says the room 8's doors open at Nestor School. Who is going to get that call?
Oh, gotcha. We are still working through security upgrades, as you know.
I appreciate that response because the who is important.
Yeah, and that did come to the board, so the board should have that knowledge that there is a plan in place right now that's being developed. Okay.
Thank you, Superintendent. The oversight of the system, this particular program, we don't have anybody that's doing the oversight. So my recommendation is that we get somebody in charge of this program as soon as possible. That the contracts are reviewed and that in fact there are employees that are living there. If not, then remedies need to be put in place. And Madam President, I would move the item forward with the extension being a 3-year phase, and that the contracts being brought into compliance by the end of the contract year.
Why don't we approve the conclusion first? If yes or no, we have to vote on that, of course. And then to me, all the suggestions you have and everything that we've heard would be taken into consideration with the transitional plan or the plan in general, depending on what the vote is. Okay?
Thank you, President Ellsworth. And just to clarify, like what President Ellsworth said, first, the board has to vote on what is going to happen next. If the board votes to conclude this program, then we're going to bring back a plan, a phase-out plan. If the board votes not to do that, then we're going to bring back a compliance plan. And that's why we can't tell you right now what all the details are, because it depends on what the board tells us to do today. And that's what we're bringing today.
So therefore, I moved for the next steps to include a 3-year phase out.
Excuse me, before us is to approve the conclusion.
The item on the floor
Yes.
is the presentation, we've had that, and approve the conclusion of the on-site security resident program. I am moving that we do our next steps and make it a 3-year phase out.
So under the current, what we would be voting on is the current like
amendment.
6 months.
That's
From
right.
the,
So-
so that's what we have to vote. I'm
Thank
just
you,
asking a
Kelly.
clarifying question. So we're
No,
voting
it's a
on.
no.
a
Okay,
6
and-
month,
and
if we
here-
don't Agree on the 6 months, then we vote.
We're not
Against it.
we're not even worried about 6 months. We're not worried about any of that right now. The
Sure.
only thing,
Just to do it.
excuse me, the only thing the board has to decide right now is, do we conclude the program
Or not.
or we don't? That's it.
Right.
That's the
That's it.
only thing the board has to decide.
Right.
Because the plan is going to be determined by whether we're concluding or not.
Right.
So that's all we need. We just need,
So, I don't make, so my question, okay, so then if I just need to understand this better. So from what I am hearing is if we vote to conclude the program, then it would be a transitional thing. Who then makes that? Does the board get to make that transitional program? Because it sounds like 6 months to me and I'm not okay with that.
yes,
Okay.
so.
So I want to be clear on what I'm voting for and who gets to make those choices thereafter.
That's a very good question. So once the board makes the decision, then we're going to bring back a plan, transition plan that the board will then get to make
So if
suggestions
we say
to.
10 years, we're going to conclude it in 10 years, then that's a transition.
You cannot
plan we
conclude it
could
if
do.
you don't want. I mean, that's not up to me. What we want the board to give us right now is either conclude the program or keep the program. If the board concludes the program, If the board concludes the program, then that transitional plan will be brought back to the board, and the board will get to give their input on the plan itself
And approve it
and
or
approve.
not.
Okay, if the board votes to keep the program, then we have to bring back a plan, which is gonna be very difficult, of course. And the board will get to have input on that plan. So either way, we need to know what kind of plan to bring back to the board. That's what that's what we're asking for.
But that's later. That's not now.
Order. Okay, I'm not the board president, but I do have a few things to say. I have questions actually more than anything, right? So I've after all this discussion, I mean, these past several months that this has been on our radar, we've all been concerned. Nobody wants to put anybody out on the streets, right? We want to make sure that there's a good plan to make sure that everybody's taken care of, right? We do value and appreciate all of you. So I have a question, like, are we able to hold off on the vote and bring this back to a later date once we have more of a discussion or meet with folks? Is that an option too?
No, that is not an option.
Right.
Okay, we got it. We're
Please. Thank you.
It is not an option because staff needs to know what to bring back. We have to figure out whether we're bringing a phase-out plan or whether we're bringing back a plan to restructure somehow to where we're not carrying this huge liability.
Please. Thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
When the lawyers speak of like our litigious society, I've seen how lawyers' fees and the school district being liable for potential things could ruin us and affect so many other jobs. Like if something was to happen, then it is our job as a board to make sure that we are fiscally sound. But understand, we are trying our best to come up with a solution that is responsible financially for the school district as well as honoring the service that you have provided. So as we're sitting up here, like I guarantee you, all of us have been sick to our stomachs over this. And we're trying to do the work of the board right now to figure out the best way. So like when you're yelling towards us, like we're really trying our best to do what is best. Because if there was something terrible to happen, so many people would be affected. So that's all
Excuse me, excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, sir. This is not the place to do that. Not in this case. This is not the opportunity to do that. If we might, part of it might be bringing back a town hall or something where there could be interaction, but at this point, this is how it works. You people have had your public input, and now we are to decide on this one issue. Yes.
President Ellsworth, and can I just,
Thank you.
this is a board meeting. It's not really that type of meeting where you're going back and forth. And actually right now, we're not supposed to be really talking to you back and forth. Hold on, let me finish. Let me finish though. Let me finish. Right, because it's not that kind of meeting. These gentlemen presented their findings to the board. We invited you here. You know you got a letter from us because we want you to be part of this process. But this is not that kind of meeting. Once the board makes a decision, then we're going to reach out to you again and bring you in again, and we're going to talk to you. well, it depends on what the board decides. But right now, sir, I'd like to ask you to just hear what I'm saying. This is not the kind of meeting that you're thinking. This is a board meeting. Okay, we have to follow certain procedures, certain protocols. Okay, so the board can't be talking back and forth with you. Okay, they're breaking their protocols. No, the communication today was to invite you so that you could hear the presentation, that you had an opportunity to give public comment. And then once the board makes a decision, because this is the governing board of our school district, then we will reach out to you again. No, you had your chance. That's it.
Okay.
No. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we need
Thank you.
to, I believe, has there been a motion? Okay. I mean, yeah. May I hear a motion to approve the conclusion of the on-site security resident program? So what happens if there is no motion, no second? What will happen? What's the default?
It dies.
It dies. In other words, what's the, we leave it the way it is?
Well,
What's
this
the
item
alternative?
dies, and then the board will still have to give us direction.
We'll still have to give direction. Okay.
So either way, we have to make a decision.
Okay, so I see no motion and of course, no second. So the motion dies. Now, there are many, many things that we have to consider as a board now.
So would it be appropriate at this time to ask like for a study session or some type of thing where we get to, I don't know, what, I don't know.
Yeah, some kind of what we need to do.
Madam President?
Yes.
May we defer this to future board items section of our agenda so we can request that appropriately? And study session.
Well, this is fine now. We can give direction to you now, can't we?
But
On
it's
this
not a
item?
board item, it's not a discussion item.
No, we could give direction, correct? You say no?
The motion has died, but the
The
board,
motion has died.
the motion has died, but the board can still give direction.
Thank you.
Because whether the motion dies or not, something has to happen. Whether that decision is made in public or it's made by the board and then give me direction, a decision is going to be made. It has to. We have to go one way or the other.
Okay. So perhaps the next step would be, a timeline to have them in compliance with, whatever they need to be in compliance of.
Well, that would have gone with a no vote on the approving the conclusion of. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Well,
So-
it already
so-
died, so.
Can I help? So the motion
Yeah.
has died. So something that the board could do is say, Superintendent, could you please bring us back additional information? And then we'll work on that. I'll work with the board to figure out what additional information, because the board has already seen 3 different reports, right? So I don't know that there's additional information, but then we would work with that. We can't create another motion,
Right.
but we can request more information.
Can we request, more information based on many of the things that were brought up this evening? The
We've got a
issues
whole
of
folder.
time or, that sort of thing. I know, huh? This is hard.
Okay, the motion has died. So I think we should move to the next one, and then I will have to work with the board to figure out the direction the board wants to go.
All right. So we do have the rest of the meeting if you feel, you can, for what? Excuse me? Okay, then have a seat, please. Have a seat. Thank you. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, I'm going to call a 5-minute recess, please. I need to call the meeting back to order. We do have some business to conclude. Will the board members please take their seats? Along with everybody else. Thank you, Ms. Connors. I would like to recognize Superintendent Jose Espinoza to talk to us about the annual organizational meeting.
Thank you, President Ellsworth. Education Code Sections 35-143 and 72-000 require that the governing board of each school district hold an annual organizational meeting. Education Code further requires that the day and time of that meeting be selected by the board at a regular meeting held prior to December 1st. We are recommending that the board approve December 14th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the Burris Auditorium as the date, time, and place for the South Bay Union School District's annual organizational meeting.
May I hear a motion?
I move.
Thank you. Second? Okay, I would like to call for the vote.
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Liker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 with one absence.
Thank you. Item B, amendments to employment agreement. I believe I have a piece 3. Yes. Are there any public comments on this issue?
Yes, there are 5.
Okay.
Susie Dorsey,
Good evening. This morning at 6 in the morning, I sent you all a letter. Except for you, your link is bad. It didn't work. So I apologize for that. So what I'd like to do is just read the letter again so that everybody can hear. To the members of the South Bay Union School District Board of Trustees. As your title states, the community of South Bay put their trust in you when they voted you into office. With that as the premise of your responsibility, I am hoping that you do not vote to approve the proposed raise for Superintendent Espinoza. Mr. Espinoza is the leader of 12 elementary schools and 1 preschool with a district of less than 6,500 students. The current salary of our superintendent is $58,000 more than the governor of California, who is the leader of 40 million residents and the largest economy of the United States. The salaries both come from California Tax Fund. I don't see any similarities in the level of responsibilities, productivity, or accomplishments. The annual 4% raise for each of the next 4 years that is proposed doesn't seem to be representative of the individual impact on the district. This is not a personal affront to Mr. Espinoza at all. There could be somebody else sitting in there and we'd have these same numbers. Our overall district scores, are they projected to improve 4% across all subjects for the next 4 years? Are the special education needs of our population projected to decline 4% each year for the next 4 years? Are expenditures on student direct services and physical resources projected to increase 4% each year for the next 4 years? Is our student population projected to increase by 4% each year over the next 4 years? Is one person in the education arena really worth all that money? In my opinion, the district doesn't see the value of our classified employees to offer them higher wages or more hours and benefits, which would have a direct positive impact on our students on a daily basis. nor does it appear that the district sees the value in smaller special education classrooms by hiring more qualified teachers and hiring more aides. Just a couple more questions. If you approve this, superintendent, the increment increases will top out at $304,000 in 2027. What will you pay the next superintendent? Where does the money come from? What happens when our enrollment continues to decline as we lose school sites? In 2027, the proposed salary will be $75,000, which is 75% that the United States of America president makes. Being the trustees of this little district, you have the power and the responsibility to do the right thing. If you decide to go a different way and approve the compensation package, it's going to be your responsibility to explain to each and every one of the parents who voted for you why you value a single individual's income more than you value the needs of their children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Teresa Acosta.
Good evening, trustees, community, colleagues, and Superintendent Espinosa. My name is Teresa Costa, and I teach at I'm a teacher at Central Elementary, third grade teacher. I'm here today to put things in perspective and to encourage you to reflect. Let me start with some food for thought. These are the 4 largest districts in California. Number 1, Los Angeles Unified, with over 600,000 students, with 1,200 operating schools, with a 10 billion with a B annual budget. As of October 25th, 2023, the base salary for the superintendent there was $440,000. Remember the number of students, the number of schools. Number 2, San Diego Unified, with over 121,000 students, with 226 operating schools, with a 1 billion annual budget. The base salary for the superintendent there is $375,000. District number 3, Fresno Unified, with over 72,000 students, with 100 operating schools, with a 1.2 billion annual budget. The base salary for that superintendent was, or is, $330,000. District number 4, Long Beach Unified School District, with over 65,000 students, with 84 operating schools, with a 1.3 billion annual budget. The base salary for the superintendent there is $280,000. With our South Bay Union District, our district, with almost 6,500 students, with 13 operating schools, with a 115 million annual budget. With benefits, the salary for the superintendent is at $353,000 with benefits. Our other top earners in our district, Assistant Superintendent Educational Leadership, estimated at $250,000. Assistant Superintendent Business Services, estimated at $248,000. Executive Director of Human Resources, estimated at $240,000. And lastly, Director of Student Services, estimated at $212,000. I hope I'm not the only one who sees the disproportionality here. At the time of her departure, our previous superintendent was making $405,000, including benefits. Use the money, please, where it's most needed. Therefore, I am here to respectfully request the denial of the amendment to the employment agreement for Superintendent Jose Espinosa. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Rose Saldana.
Good evening, Superintendent Espinosa, Board of trustees, colleagues, and other community members. I'm speaking today because when I saw the agenda item 8B on tonight's agenda, I felt very confused. Because what it appears that the board would be voting to approve a raise and a bonus for our superintendent, plus a yearly 4% raise. That would mean that in the year 2027, he would be earning over $300,000 per year. And that's not even taking into account benefits such as a vehicle allowance or dependent coverage for health insurance. My wondering is, what has the superintendent done in the past 2 years that has been here, that he's been here to deserve that kind of a raise? Because from where I stand, I've seen that, what I have seen is that our district enrollment has continued to decline. We've been losing teachers to other districts left and right, and we're looking at shutting down schools. This is not an issue that has improved since Mr. Espinoza has been here. If anything, it's gotten worse. Parents and families don't want to send their kids to school here anymore. And I say that as a parent who has their children here in this district. Our district has ineffective reading, writing, and math curricula, and the parents are seeing the result of that. They want their children to excel in middle school, high school, and beyond. They're not going to want to send their kids here. Our district has lost several of the programs that made it unique and attractive for decades, including VPA at Mendoza, the GATE program at Emory, the STEAM Street at Bayside, and the district music program that I am a product of. And I could speak about that all day long. I'm not going to because I know I have a limited amount of time. But without these, parents are looking at sending their kids to neighboring districts that still offer orchestral music or the visual and performing arts. In addition, the lack of district leadership around behavior issues has led to students feeling unsafe at school, causing families to look into private schools with more selective enrollment criteria. Children come to school and they are scared of students who act out with no repercussions except for the occasional slap on the wrist. Teachers and administrators are trying their best to handle these issues, but oftentimes their hands are tied by district level policies and decision-making. Our district was already facing declining enrollment before the current superintendent arrived, but the problem's only worsened in recent years. As both a parent and a teacher, I've been hearing rumors about schools shutting down, right? Teachers are terrified that we will be facing a reduction in force. Teachers with 6, 7, or 8 years of experience are unable to sleep at night because we are worried we might not have jobs in the coming years. Administrators are being told that their budgets need to be slashed because our district doesn't have funds to provide what students need to succeed, and yet our school board is looking at increasing the superintendent's pay. I think about the concerns that my colleagues have shared with me. I have one colleague who's been driving the same car for 20 years, and she was looking at buying a new one this year. Sorry, I know I gotta get going, but she wanted to pull the trigger on buying the new car this year, and she can't. She's scared that she's not gonna have a job next year. That's not something our superintendent has to worry about because we pay for his car allowance, from what I've heard. I have colleagues that are trying to figure out what they can cut from their already slim budgets so that they can afford the cost of health insurance for their children. I'm one of them because it's exorbitant and it goes up year after year. But that's another thing that our superintendent can't relate to because our district pays for that. I could keep going. I know I gotta stop. But I just want you to think about that. We always say that we want to do what's best for children, for our students, that we care about and want to protect and do what's right by them. How is this doing what's best for the children and for the staff, the students, the parents, and the community? Thank you.
Thank you. Jeanette Sanchez.
Thank you guys for having me. Thank you. Oh, here we go. Thank you so much. I am actually very uncomfortable speaking right now. I am really frustrated that I have to be here and put myself in this situation, but I'm doing this because I am a parent of this district. I'm a teacher, but most importantly, I'm a parent.
a little about me. A lot of you sitting over here know who I am because you know that I work hard. I care about this district. I am invested in this district. I'm invested in my students, in my colleagues, in my children, in my community here in Imperial Beach. I currently teach 5th grade. I have been in the district for over 10 years. I just came back from a 2-year leave of absence. My husband was deployed and sent to Washington, D.C., so off to Washington, D.C. we went. When I was over there, I was fortunate, and I say fortunate enough to work with Fairfax County Public Schools, and I worked at a Title I school, small school, 463 students. Diversity was more than what we have in our district here combined, as you can imagine over there. But I felt like I hit gold. I had a small school with 3 principals on site. The one principal was our admin principal. She did everything that had to do with the board, superintendent, everything that was up at that level. We had a second principal who worked with special education because we had several SPED classes on campus. She handled all the IEPs, anything that had to do with the legal matters of handling all of those services. Our third principal, and yes, this is all on one campus, and this was how it was across the district. Our third principal was our on-hands behavior issues. We have anything that had to happen on campus, he was always there. I had an academic coach. I had a reading specialist. Under each of those was resource teachers, myself included. We had small intervention groups all day with students who were struggling. And I'm going to say that, let me step back. They were not struggling. They were on the cusp of possibly struggling or not meeting grade level. Why? Because we needed to catch them before it got bad. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Why? 2 years later, I'm back here and I look at what we have, and it's sad. It's really sad and it's really frustrating. I have 30 seconds left. And the reason I'm saying all this is because I cannot believe that I left something so great and I'm back here. This is home. This is where I've invested all my time. My kids are here. And how do we not have money to provide books? I have 3 kids in my class who don't speak English, but we can't have books. My kids, they don't know how to multiply, but we can't have intervention for them. There's so many things that we're not providing for our students, but we have money to provide for a raise. And I don't know you. I have not worked under you other than for 3 months. This is nothing towards you as a person, but I cannot fathom the money that is going to be spent on this. We are cutting so much. It's just frustrating. And my kids had music every day. They had art with their art teacher every day. They had VAPA every day. They had their library time and tech time. Every single day they had an enrichment program. They get here and my son says, when do we have music? I'm sorry, sweetheart, we don't have music at this school. When do we have art? We have VAPA. Yes, it is once a week. I will give us that. Once a week. For my child, and I speak for my child who is a struggling reader, he's not getting any support. What motivated him was his PE and his music class. He doesn't get that. So as a parent, please rethink this. It's not bad timing completely.
Thank you.
Jennifer Cortez. Lorena Garcia.
Good evening. I think we were here before with the last superintendent. You just kept giving her money and giving her money and giving her money. Well, you kept not giving it to the employees that work closely with the students in our district. And that's sad. And you're doing it again. You're doing it again. You're going to give him full benefits for his family, but yet our teachers are going to have to pay $800 to have full insurance for their children. He makes more money.
Why would he need full benefits for his family? You have cut, or there have been cuts. I know the BPA is not what it used to be. We used to have a band program for the entire district, and that is not here anymore. There's so many cuts that have happened to our students, and the superintendents keep getting rich here. They get rich and then they leave. And we're still here. And we don't get any of those benefits. You need to start thinking about where the money should be. It should be in the classroom. It should be with the staff that's close to those students, not the superintendent. I believe there was a question if he was willing to relocate to be here. It's my understanding that his family's still back where he came from. So you're paying for that too, for him to commute? No? It is getting crazy. I hope you reconsider the amount of money that you're thinking about giving him. He hasn't, our scores have not gone up. We still don't have a decent ELD program. That has been bad since when Katie was here. That was bad when Katie came and brought her workshop way and all that stuff that she brought here. And what was that? It's been proven to be a bad program, but yet that is what we have in our district. That's why we have bad scores. You're making us do things that aren't beneficial to our students. But yet you keep paying our superintendents. I hope you reconsider.
Thank you.
One more? Sorry, that was the last comment.
Oh, thank you. Okay, it looks like I need to recognize myself. And I need to read this so that we can approve the amendments that I'm going to read. Tonight, we are reviewing for approval amendments to the employment agreement with Superintendent Espinosa. The highlights of these amendments are as follows. The term is amended and extended to June 30, 2027. Upon a satisfactory evaluation, the board agrees to reset or extend the duration of this agreement by an additional year, but never to exceed a 4-year maximum. Effective January 1, 2023, the superintendent's annual salary shall be $259,974. Each January thereafter, the superintendent's annual salary will be increased by 4%. Effective July 1, 2023, the superintendent will be paid a one-time 4% off-schedule payment. The superintendent may enroll himself and his dependents in his choice of district-sponsored medical, dental, and/or vision programs. The employee costs for dependent coverage in medical, dental, and/or vision programs will be paid by the district. May I hear a motion to approve these amendments?
I'll make the motion.
A second?
I second.
Thank you. Are there any comments or?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Thank you all that have stayed for this very important moment because our superintendent is valued. He has worked a hard job after our last one. I'm sorry, but I'm here every month and I don't see you here every month. So I just want to say that, on the direction of the board, the superintendent has done a magnitude of work that we recognize. And, the classroom environment is something that has been on our radar, for the last 2 years. Things don't change overnight, and test scores don't come from my dais here. So all of us as a community board president, and board members and myself are committed to our children. And, the contract is reviewed, evaluation is reviewed every year. Nothing in it, the evaluation of the only employee that the board has is the board and the superintendent. So, based on the evaluation and the, recommendation of the board, the item has been brought forward. We have a lot of work to do, and we can only do that as a team. And, that includes all of you and all of us. So thank you, Superintendent, for your work. With that, call for the vote.
If I may.
Myself, actually. This definitely is not a easy decision, right? Like, it's crazy. Like you guys said, the previous superintendent made over $400,000 a year. And if you guys could please let us talk, right? We'd really appreciate that also, right? None of us cut you guys off. Every single person's time went over, and we let you speak. So all we ask is for you to be as respectful to us as we have been to you. Okay, we're a new board. Half the people on this board are brand new. Half the people on this board are also parents. I'm not sure if you said that, sir, because you knew that we're parents, or maybe you just don't know, but half of us are here because our children go to this district. We came to this district ourselves, right? And we care about this community, right? We care about our teachers, right? From what I understand, our teachers are the highest paid teachers in this whole entire region. And that's thanks to the superintendent, the board, right? And thanks to you guys. And if anything, you guys should be just more mad. I love the fact that you're so upset, right? But I would love to see this anger where it belongs, right? It's not our fault that this state, right, is the way that it is. It's this government's fault, right? We're sitting here while our government is funding wars that is killing innocent children, billions of dollars, right? And there's so many more other things that we can be talking about. So continue to organize, but not just right here, right? Organize with your union, with CTA to push the governor. But trust us, we're doing the best that we can to make sure this district gets better, right? And we're not going to do it by ourselves. We need to work together. And it's a shame that there's been so much toxicity in this district that
Jose,
people can't even get along.
Trustee Lopez Eguino, please.
So
Could we
I say
take the
that
vote?
just because I think it's very important for us to work together. And so I'm sorry if this decision upsets people, but trust me, the superintendent is going to do a good job. And if he doesn't, he won't be here. And we're going to work together to make sure that happens. And it's up to, and we have a commitment to you guys to continue to make sure that your salaries increase, right? That you continue to have benefits. Talk to your union representative. That's all I have to say.
Call for the vote. Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes, I'm sorry.
So it is with the understanding that every year this contract is renegotiated. So as right now, what I've seen before as an employee of this district in our classrooms as a certificated and a classified employee under our previous superintendent, I have faith in what's happening. And if things change with our state funding and continued enrollment, then it is my understanding, correct, board, that next year, when his contract is up, we can renegotiate. And it doesn't have to be 4% every year. But this is our
faith in him to keep him here, to move us in this direction that we're going, right? Is that what we're doing?
What it says here is upon a satisfactory evaluation.
Right. So next year, when he is reevaluated, if we do not feel that he is coming through on the promises, or that we as a board are not working together to stay focused, then it will not remain. Right. Okay. It's always renegotiated.
To a degree. May I call for the vote now? Okay,
Ellsworth,
yes.
Biker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 with one absent.
President Ellsworth, I'd like to just say a few words that I hope people will listen to. First, I would like to thank the board for their commitment to working to be the highly competitive in each job classification within our district. What that means, our bus drivers are highly competitive around our region. Our principals are highly competitive around our region. Our teachers are highly competitive around our region. This has led to some significant improvements within our district in the last 2 years. Our district has invested over $20 million in our staff in the last 2 years. Let me say that again. $20 million in our staff within the last 2 years. Every single staff member in our district has received at least a 13% raise within these 2 years, as well as improved benefits. We established a minimum wage guarantee to ensure that our lowest wage earners were making above the state minimum wage. Currently, that's $17, and we are working to improve that minimum wage. We've never had that before. And from what I understand, going throughout the district, talking to different people, they were very appreciative that we were looking at salaries in this way. Our teachers, one of the highest paid teachers within our region. They are better compensated than San Isidro, better compensated than National, better compensated than Coronado, better compensated than Chula Vista, better compensated than Sweetwater. And I believe with San Diego's historic raise that they just received, we're about the same now. Yes, we are. The board has taken steps to ensure consistency in leadership that will help us navigate through the toxic environments and the chaos that has happened to our district, including the pandemic, but just before that. But to do that, to Trustee Lopez Aguino's point, we do have to work together. At some point, the toxicity has to stop. People have to step up and say enough is enough. I am willing to sit with anybody and talk about how the market drives what people get paid. I don't think football players should make what they make. I don't think basketball players or baseball players should make what they make. I don't get to decide that. The market decides that. Now, I will say South Bay Union needs a superintendent. It's legislation. And if you expect to compete, because you are competing for a superintendent, not only one that's a first-year superintendent, one with experience. This board did not interview me. A couple of people did, but they know that you have different levels of superintendents. This board could have decided we want a fresh, new superintendent, which the market pays so much for. But they didn't. They decided to get an experienced superintendent because they understood the work that needed to be done. Our beginning teachers have moved from the worst compensated in our region to the best. They went from 45,000 starting wage a year to 62,000 a year. The board should be proud of the work that they've been doing. And I hope that our staff recognizes the work that has been going on. Thank you.
We're moving on to item C, School Board, California School Boards Association Delegate Assembly nominations. We are here to request of each other that we nominate governing board members, us, from the CSBA member boards, which would be us, from Region 17, which is also us, as candidates for election to the CSBA Delegate Assembly. Any nominations from y'all?
Nominate Kelly because her name's out in the wind. And so if National's going to do Kelly, I want to do Kelly too.
I appreciate the nomination, but at this time, I must decline. But thank you for thinking of me.
Okay.
I'd like to nominate myself, if that's okay. I was nominated last year and unfortunately was not able to go through the process. But I would like to give it another chance so we could continue to advocate for our teachers, our students, right, and
Or
our
school
community.
boards, yes. Okay. I think we need to have a second on that.
I second that.
There we go. And let's vote to put Jose Lopez-Aguino's name forward.
Ellsworth, Liker,
Yes.
Lopez-Aguino,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 with one absence.
Things off. I'd like to recognize Assistant Superintendent Pamela Reichert Montiel. Thank you, Pamela, for an update on the LCAP, et cetera.
All right. Good evening. Good evening, President Ellsworth, Superintendent Espinosa, trustees, esteemed colleagues. This evening, I come before you with an LCAP update specifically regarding student progress monitoring, AKA student achievement. You are aware we are in year 3 of an LCAP. And today, as I mentioned, the update will be on student progress monitoring from LCAP Goal 1, which is ensuring academic excellence. Before I ask Directors Chavez and Flores to join me to share with you our LPAC data and our CAS data, I just wanted to share with you a little longitudinal data regarding our results in South Bay. We can go back 10 years approximately to look at results. And so we just wanted to share some, I guess, give some context or perspective about what's been happening. In 2002, we had No Child Left Behind. In December of 2015, we had the passing of the Every Student Succeeds Act, which we know of as ESSA, replacing NCLB. If you look at our test scores in 14-15, you can look across 15-16, 16-17, and you can see that our ELA, and again, we're looking at students who have met or exceeded standard, 33%, growth to 39%, then 35.66%. In 2017-18, 36.45%, and 18-19, 35.89%. So with the exception of that 15-16 school year, you see sort of a holding around that 33, 35, 36%. Whereas in math, you see a 22, a bump in that 15-16 school year to 28. And then we see that 28 moving to about 30, staying sort of steady. The adoption of the TC units of study occurred in February of 2017. So it's a sort of an odd adoption time. February, we know that we were doing some piloting in 16-17, and then the actual board approval of the materials was in February with full implementation in the 18-19 school year. Prior to that, we were using Houghton Mifflin for many, many, many years, if you recall. That came in with Reading First and the ELA adoption. And it was another one of those long periods of time where we did not have another ELA adoption, which is what we're experiencing right now, and not looking for an adoption to come forward until 2027. So unfortunately, that is just the situation that we are in regarding ELA. With math, we are looking at the math framework being officially published, released, and we will be doing math framework work this year in order to pilot and select a math adoption next year. So then we have that sort of breaking point of COVID. And then if you look post-COVID, then you can see that the ELA is at the 22.30. We'll recognize that we were in distance learning as well. And then it did increase to 28.9, and then the final score at 30.17. And then you can see the math as well with an increase from 15.43 to 18.86 and now 21.71. And the presentation tonight will go in depth into the 2022 23 school year results, but I did want to share that with you for some perspective. I also wanted to share with you that we've looked closely at our attendance to see what correlations are there between our attendance and any of our student results. And we know that COVID has really affected student attendance. But as you can see, our overall average last year in 2021 was 90%. In 21-22, and we still saw an increase from the 2021 school year, which prior attendance was being collected differently. So it's hard to really analyze those two or compare those. And then in 22-23, it was 91%. We're really pushing to get back to that 95% that we were at, but we really didn't have any dips or huge peaks in all of the prior years that I was speaking about in our attendance. Our attendance held pretty firmly in that 95, 96 range. And so it wasn't an increase necessarily of student or of attendance that resulted in that 15, 16 little spike that we see. I also wanted to share with you that while I don't have like county comparison, because really you'd have to break down in the county, you have unified school districts with high school and middle school, and we really want to compare to elementary. But across the state of California, we've seen a very similar trend. While it is higher, it is a very similar trend of like a 48 in ELA to a 49 to a 51 Then post-COVID, 49, 47, 46. It's actually going down at the state level post-COVID. Again, not maybe statistically significant when you're thinking about percentages. And then in math in California, pre-COVID, we were like 37.56, 38.65, 39.73. Now post-COVID, pretty much holding at a 33. 33, 33, or 33.76, 33.38, and this past year, 34.62. And so just again, in analyzing not only the state, but districts around us, San Ysidro, National City, we're seeing very similar trends where pre-COVID, it was just pretty steady, even if it was slightly above how we were performing, pretty steady, and post-COVID drops. And in fact, when you look at our year prior to COVID, so if you look at the 18-19 school year of 35.89, and then you look now at that 30.17, you're talking about a 5.5%, give or take, approximate difference, where in some of our surrounding districts, they are seeing some differences in that 18-19 school year and current or last year of 12% difference, where they were at 43.08 before COVID and are currently at 30.97. So they have an even bigger gap. So we're getting closer to where we were pre-COVID, which is our hopes we can start to accelerate now. The last thing that I wanted to share before we dig deeply into that is that you're probably receiving a lot of different newsletters and things about the results in the state. And I recently received one from CSBA where there was a statement by the California State Board of Education or the California Department of Education releasing the results and stating that the test results were particularly promising. And it was interesting to hear that because we've seen this decline. And so you're getting two messages. You're getting across the state that we're seeing this decrease, which I shared, but yet we're saying that they're promising. And what it's actually saying is it's promising considering the staggering increase of students now considered high need, including foster youth and students who are experiencing homelessness. And the board president came out and said that while there are some hopeful signs that recovery from the pandemic related declines may be beginning, we also have a long way to go, and that we have a long way to go that will happen with things like, and actually, and this is, I'm speaking or quoting board president Linda Darling Hammond, who was also a professor at Stanford and well-renowned in the field, that indicates that we will see much more of the impact when we see the implementation of community schools, extended learning time, transitional kindergarten, literacy coaches, and the new Golden State pathways, as well as the rollout of the mathematics framework. Then we will see they'll make a growing difference in the coming years. And so I think it is important for us to recognize where we've been, our recent experiences during the pandemic, where we want to go, and that we talked a little bit about hope and faith, but also hard work that's going to get us there. So I wanted to share that before I invite my colleagues, Director Chavez and Director Flores, to go in depth now into our South Bay results. Amy, that is the next slide.
Good evening. Please note that the data being shared is for all schools. However, when we return with the dashboard data presentation in January, it will be based on district data without our charters. So here we see 30.17% for met or exceeded for language arts and 21.71% for math. So in both language arts and math, we see that the preliminary data indicates improvement in both areas, and there has been a steady increase from 2021 up until last school year for both ELA and math as well. What we have here, what you see in yellow is last year's reports. The green arrow indicates growth from the previous year, and the red arrow indicates that there is a decrease in students for meeting or exceeding standards from the previous year. So as you can see, there was growth in all grade levels for math with the exception of fourth grade, which showed the same decrease in language arts. It's important to recognize the implementation of the interim assessments this year for language arts for grades 3rd through 8th, which are being used not only as test literacy, but also as an instructional tool. These interim assessment blocks will allow students to demonstrate their understanding of the standards being assessed in a variety of test types, which is also representative of the CASP testing. Here we see student groups' performance in both language arts and math. Overall growth for all, with the exception of students who are experiencing homelessness, which decreased in meeting or exceeding the standard expectation. Here we have additional student groups disaggregated by race and ethnicity. Overall, we see gains for our students in both language arts and math. However, there is a decrease for our African-American students in math and a decrease for our Filipino students in language arts. This is where we see the importance of qualitative data, instructional practices, empathy interviews, fish bowls, where staff and administrators can have conversations with both students and families around academics to ensure that we're addressing their instructional needs and implementing best practices that are aligned with how students engage in their learning. This slide shows here overall for language arts and math without our charter schools. So there's a difference of 5% for language arts and 5.23% for math. Before we move on to the LPAC data, are there any questions?
Buenas noches, and I am here to saturate you with more data, so I apologize for that. I'm here to share with you our 22-23 LPAC data, which, as we know, is a summative assessment that all of our multilingual learners take annually, and it measures their English proficiency by assessing their oral language, which encompasses both their speaking and listening skills, and then their written language, which encompasses both their reading and writing skills. I also wanted to note that the English Learner Progress Indicator, also known as the ELPI, is one of our dashboard indicators that measures our multilingual learners' progress towards English language development. That data will be released later and will be shared with you at a future meeting. Here is our overall LPAC data. So this data really shows you the different performance levels that our multilingual learners are, where they're at in their language development. 43% of our multilingual learners are at a well-developed and moderately developed, and 56% are at a beginning to develop their language proficiency skills, and they're somewhat developed language proficiency skills. So this is data for all schools. Now I'm going to show you the data without our 2 charter schools. So it did dip a little bit. We went from 43%, sorry, with all schools we dropped 3% of a combined score for our well-developed and moderately developed. And we dropped to 58% after we disaggregated the charter data in our language proficiency levels. In this data, this data set, you'll see a comparison from data from 21-22 to this year. There was a small increase in our level fours, which is where we want our students, because once they achieve that level 4 in LPAC, along with other criteria, we can recommend for reclassification. And that is ultimately our goal. We want our students to leave South Bay being reclassified so that they have access to different courses and level work in middle school and high school. So our goal is for our English learners to leave our district reclassified. So our 11.337%, it's we need to increase those numbers. The next data sets is just a disaggregated set of data of the overall performance levels from K to 2. You'll see that our kindergartners had higher scores in well-developed language proficiency skills. Next data set is 3rd through 5th, disaggregated overall performance data. Our 5th graders had the highest percentage in language proficiency with well-developed. And then this last set of disaggregated data is our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, which I wanted to put these together because these are either our students are leaving us in 6th grade or they're leaving us in 8th grade. So about 20% of our students last year scored a level 4 in 6th grade, and about 28% in 8th grade scored a level 4 well-developed in their language proficiency skills. Now, the LPAC measures, assesses our students, in 4 domains. Those are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And this is the data that breaks down the domains based on performance level descriptors. This data is for listening, and 19% compared to last year, that data set did decrease slightly from well-developed. It went from 20% to 19%. You'll notice throughout the course of the rest of the slides that our somewhat to moderately developed data is a hotspot. So just a quick, I want to point that out to you. Our speaking domain, that also decreased a little bit. And then once again, our somewhat to moderately developed data in the speaking domain is a hotspot. We have the highest percentages there. Reading, we went up a little bit, which is a good sign. It's not enough, but we're going to keep working to ensure that our multilingual learners achieve high levels of academic success. And once again, the somewhat moderately developed data is a concentrated percentage of our scores in our LPAC. Last but not least, we have our writing domains. We did increase we saw a slight increase from last year to this year, which is a good thing. It's a celebration. And then again, the somewhat to moderately area is a concentrated area. And those are typically our students who are at level 2 or 3 in our English language proficiency development levels. Got one more slide for you. This data, I'm sorry, it's a lot of data, so I am definitely saturating you. So this is how our students performed in the CASP. So it's broken down by the multilingual typologies. And you can see that our RFIP students, they scored about 65% outperforming EOs, our Altel students in ELA, and they also surpassed EO students in mathematics with 39. They scored 39%, and our EOs were at 27%. There's a lot of work to be done to support our multilingual learners. That is evident. And I know that we're going to continue to work together to support our teachers and really dig ourselves and really understand the EO roadmap and ground ourselves in that. That is really the policy that grounds our work in regards to professional development and instruction. So that is some of the work that we're grounding ourselves in order to move forward and ensure that we see achievement increase. Thank you.
I think just some final thoughts on the data. I know you've seen a lot of data this evening. But I think it's also important to keep in mind what do we consider statistically significant. You see some down arrows, but that may be that it's a 0.3% decrease. So I just want to point that out, but we want to be very transparent with the data that we're sharing with you, as well as when you're looking at the CAFS data. We have that by school, we have that by grade level, and sometimes when you're comparing on a slide, like how did third grade do last year compared to this year, what's more helpful at times is to look at how did the fourth graders do last year compared to the third graders the year before. So just know that we've been looking at the data from all different angles, and what might not look like an increase or may actually appear to be a decrease. When you look at how students were received at a particular grade level, if they're exiting third grade, let's say at 25%, and the next year we see fourth graders are at 35%, then you actually can see that there was a big growth in that particular grade level. But in the fourth grade, they might have had a 40 the year before, and now they have a 35% and they feel like they've decreased, but you're receiving the students that you receive in that grade level. And the question is, how much growth are they making? So again, the data is coming into us. We're starting to dig even deeper. The dashboard will be released on December 15th, the day after our next board meeting. So we'll be back up here with you in January to share with you how this all comes together on the dashboard.
And we can look at what you're suggesting following a cohort or a class.
Yes. Mhm.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and we have that, we have that information now that we can look at cohorts of students.
Yeah.
But the dashboard will, put everything together and figure out what levels we're at, what growth there was, what bands we fall into. So that will be in the January presentation.
Thank you.
So Amy, I know we're on the other slide deck. Really, the last slide is simply the LCAP timeline. And that was just as a reminder where we are in the process as I come up before you in an LCAP update in the context of an LCAP update. And then finally, any questions that you may have. At 9:05 p.m.
I don't know if this is an appropriate question at this time, but I mean, looking at this longitudinal data here, and when we adopted the Teachers College units of study, and then hearing 2027 is when we're supposed to be fully transitioned away from that program. Is there any possibility in the future timeline of when we could
adopt? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
So I think I received a question similar to that maybe a couple of months ago. And the question, the dilemma is this. There are materials out there that we did not adopt because we went with the units of study. So they exist. One publisher is Benchmark.
Yes.
But what is out there is from the past adoption. What we want to make sure that we do is that we are prepared for the future adoption. Just like the math that's coming our direction, the changes that have been made in the framework are going to translate or transfer into those new materials. So they're not going to be the same in math. They are not going to be the same in ELA. So if we were to purchase a program that's a past adoption like Benchmark right now, then what we're doing is using funds that are earmarked for the future adoption. And what we don't have is any guarantee that there aren't going to be significant changes, because in any adoption cycle, they're aligning the adoption materials to the framework. So right now, I'm going to go back to math. Math, the framework has been completed. It's being published. And Director Chavez is going to lead a committee that's going to dig into the framework, identify what the changes are, identify what that's going to mean for the instructional resources that come forward. As we're preparing ourselves, the publishing companies are scrambling to put together their potential materials to be adopted. So we don't know what those materials are going to be. They may be very different from our current math adoption materials. They may not be different at all. We don't know that. So that's the dilemma that we're really in. That puts us in that place of limbo, which is why we've been speaking about teaching to the standards, really getting back to that place where the standards are driving our instruction, not an instructional program. So not Houghton Mifflin, not the units of study, and not necessarily benchmark, but that the standards, the grade level standards and reaching mastery are where we want to be.
Thank you.
And I'm not implying that we are there, and I'm not implying that there's not more work to be done, but that is the work that we have to be focused on in this gap period before the new adoption cycle.
Thank you for clarifying. It just guides some of my future agenda things of understanding how that works.
And again, we can purchase things, but then we may be stuck
With
with
things that are
no
out of
money, with no money to purchase a future adoption and with materials that don't meet those requirements.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, no more questions at 8:10?
And we just get to say thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, the three of you. Thank you. Chavez, Flores, Reichert Montiel. No, just thank you. Okay, we are on the consent calendar. May I hear a motion to accept?
A motion.
Second?
I second.
Okay, the vote?
Ellsworth,
Yes.
Biker,
Yes.
Lopez Aguino,
Yes.
Quinones.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0 with one absent.
Future agenda items. At this time, each trustee may suggest one topic for a future board meeting. Do I hear any?
Thank you, Madam President. I would like, a presentation on our instrumental music program. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. Anybody else?
I forgot to turn it off from the last time. I would like a presentation. I know that we're transitioning away from Lucy Hawkins into a new adoption, and the 2027 timeline hurts my heart, understanding that what we're currently using is not effective. So my question is, knowing that we're working towards that, like I would like a presentation on how consultation is supporting our teachers with easily accessible resources that are like ready for them to do their job instead of using things that are not currently effective.
So what role consultation is?
Will be giving me what their plan is on how to support our teachers during the transitional time before the new adoption.
Okay, of any subject?
Specifically, our reading
Reading
ELAs, like, yeah,
specifically?
away, yeah, as we're transitioning away from TC, the Teachers College. That period. I want to
Just-
know about phonics. I want to know about how we're going to get our our littlest ones like reading, because I mean, by the time 2027 comes along, we've lost all these readers already and they're falling behind. So how are we going to, stop that from happening, especially with our most vulnerable students? Thank you.
Trustee Likert, I just want to make sure I'm understanding your request. And I think you're talking a little bit because you understand the process that's happening, right? You understand that at consultation, that's where we talk about our curriculum. So I get that part. So are you requesting just a presentation or a plan from, like, you would like a presentation that shows what the plan is to support our teachers during that gap time until we get an
Yes,
adoption?
My assumption, because I'm just learning here, is that we have
our TOSAs and we have our people who can, support our teachers. And, I would hope that there is like a specific plan, like a roadmap of sorts, like what are we teaching each grade? So, that is different from what is currently being given to them. So a specific plan, I want a roadmap. I want a plan, I want a roadmap. How are we going to, how are they gonna support our teachers? I want.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Let's see, future agenda items, follow-up. I'd like to recognize Superintendent Jose Espinosa to provide direction,
On the future agenda items.
yeah,
Perfect.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we had two requests from the previous board meeting. And one of them was from, trustee Lopez Aguino around a presentation, by SWATA regarding community schools steering committee. So I will turn it over to him, and then he can state his case to the board.
I brought this up last meeting because I think that it's very important that we're all included in this process of community schools from the very beginning. And I want to make sure that the, community is aware of this opportunity that we all have. And considering SWATA had came and invited us to form the steering committee, I was just curious to hear more information about that.
A second? Is that what happens next?
So
It's
thank
like,
you.
I want to hear more about that, so I second that.
We don't really need a first and second, we just need to go,
We
yes,
just
yes,
need
yes.
to, we just need to agree that, but I think specifically the request was to have SWATA present that. So I want to make sure
Yeah, that's what
that that's still the request, and then that way the board understands that.
So I'm still trying to understand like the different processes and if this is something that should happen at a board meeting or is it something that we can do somewhere else, right? It's not in a public meeting like this. So, I mean, I would like some guidance to figure out what is the best way to go about this process.
Okay, so if we are going to present it to the board, it has to be at a public meeting, because that is a board meeting. It could be a special board meeting, but if the board is gonna be there, then it would be agendized, it goes out, and then it goes to everybody. So that's one process. If the board would like us to, I guess, we could reach out to, Ms. Barrera and see if, she wanted to work with our, designated person who is gaining that information right now. To talk about what that process is for the committees, because I think that's the specific question around the committees. I can share with the board that, the pillars, the committees are a part of the pillars of community schools. And we are working towards that direction. But we needed somebody to coordinate that work. And so currently Maria Osborne, is the one that's coordinating that work. She's also coordinating how that information will be going out to all the communities. So I can share that with the board at this point. So we could do it, we could do it either way. I mean, I could give that information to the board, or, we could have Maria Osborne and possibly Vanessa if she agree, if she would like to do it that way. They could do it that way. I would remind the board SWATA has 5 minutes every single board meeting to address. I believe they addressed the board today. That's another, that's another opportunity for them to share that part of it. But it really is up to the board to see, what we would like.
So what do you think you want to see?
Yeah. What do you all think?
What do you all? I would like to hear, go ahead. I would like to hear from Maria. And if Ms. Pereira would like to join in that, they can both present. I don't know how effective that would be. I mean, they might be talking about the same thing or differences. But
Yeah, maybe that would be a good idea. That would, it's like kind of like the beginning of them collaborating on this.
yeah, that kind of thing.
Do you think that, they can do that? Can't they call each other? Why do we have to come to a board meeting?
They could, and so if we have provided the board some information around community schools already, but we could provide specific information. We could provide a timeline around when the information will be shared with all communities. We could provide a timeline of when we think the committees will be established and what the process for that will be. We can provide that. We can provide that.
Would you like it at a presentation or just something coming out?
Maybe like just keep us updated and then if we, so Friday updates, keep us updated, like the progress of it all and how it works. 'Cause
Yeah, it sounds like a Friday update will suffice for now. I mean, eventually we'll bring it to the board.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, a full plan, once we have that, and then again, I would just like to reiterate, we are in the planning year, right? And the full plan will come to the board once that's developed. It is still in the process right now. And that plan does include, how do we share this information out with schools? How are we going to prepare schools if they are going to apply for the implementation grant? So that plan has to contain those areas. So that is working. And once we have a full plan, that will come back to the board. So for now, we will work on a timeline to get to the board in a Friday update. And then, we'll continue to update the board as we go. Oh, I'm still,
Yes, you're on
yeah,
the next
sorry.
one. Yeah.
Sorry, I was kind of like, okay, yeah, we're
I know.
good. And then the next item is, sorry, I don't have my glasses on. I have to really squint here. A presentation on, and I want to, and this was brought forward by Trustee Likert. So I want to make sure to give her an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about what she would like to see. What we have right now is a presentation on the adoption of Panorama, but I will let you clarify.
Thank you. I saw in our, in a Friday update that, Panorama was one of the platforms that was already being looked at as far as, creating some type of, consistency in tracking our data and how that data is used and all of that. And so, I trust in whoever's looking over those different platforms and then whatever's decided, once there's a decision, I'd love to hear more about it.
Okay, perfect. We will keep you updated.
Communications, excuse me, communications from the Board of Trustees, 3 minutes for each of us.
When I first decided to run for board, I naively thought that this would be like once a month, maybe another
little other meeting here and there, and it has been so much more than that. We recently just finished our 40 hours of Masters in Governance training. We're continuously learning, how to work together, how to steer the ship. And it's a lot, but I'm very thankful. But yay, we did the MIG.
Just wanted to thank everybody for all of your hard work and for staying here. It's very late. You don't have to be here. So I'm not going to take the whole 3 minutes, but I'm really excited to be part of this team. I'm very proud of my colleagues here, and I know that we're going to keep doing better.
Are you going to finish up? I usually just say thank you and good night, boom, but I have to wait for the boom. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your information, your work, and all those people out there. It was interesting.
Thank you, Madam President. My board report includes a visit to Emory School. And I was really amazed at the high level teaching that was going on there. All kids were engaged. In fact, it didn't look like anyone was absent. Okay. So the classrooms were full. They're engaged. They're excited. Janet and I, along with the superintendent, went through all grade levels and visited through the grade levels. And what was really interesting is that the psychologist came in and did lesson 2 on bullying. And part of this instruction included music. And it was hat day because it was Red Ribbon Week. So it was hat day. And I just share this with you because the energy in the room was so electrifying. And this one child stood up at her desk and she pushed her chair in when the music started playing. Yeah, yeah. And she's, dancing. And so the music was done. She put her chair back down, sat herself down. And I just share that with you because it was so, it made my heart happy that children can learn the way they need to learn. If they want to stand up and dance a little bit around the desk, nobody corrected her. Children didn't, say, what are you doing? There was nothing like that. I was just really, it really warmed my heart to visit Emory and visit with the teachers and sit in grade reading math problems. I was sitting there next to them and he was reading them to me. So it's like, okay, second grade. So there's some magic going on in our classrooms, and so I just want to share that with you. I appreciate the board agenda this evening, Madam President, and your chairing our board meetings the last year. So I thank you for that. And with that, I thank the staff that's still here. I appreciate your work and your support as always. Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you. And then just one last, earlier when I was thanking the board for, some of the work that they have done, I really, really want to just take a quick minute to thank the board for all the work that they do that no one sees. Our district has a lot of really hard decisions to make. And nights like tonight are very difficult because we have a lot of people who are sitting in the audience yelling at board members and that really have no idea the process that our board goes through and all the different sides that they weigh to make these really, really, really hard decisions. At the end of the day, the board is responsible for ensuring that our district is in the best possible, financially sound, instructionally sound, leadership sound, in the best possible way. And that's not easy. So I really want to thank the board for all the time that they're putting in to making these decisions, to continuing to go to trainings. Earlier, Trustee Lopez Aguino said, you know, we're doing our best. We're learning. A lot of us are brand new, but the dedication that I have seen is amazing. And so I just really wanted to take a minute to thank the board. And I wish there were more people here to listen to that, because I think often people think that, I don't know if they really think that, but they make it seem like the board is rushing through decisions or just not considering different things. And I heard somebody, you know, say, we've been dealing with this and our stomachs have been, you know, upside down because of this decision. So nothing is taken lightly. And so I just want to thank the board, and I want to encourage you to keep doing the right thing, regardless of all the people that are yelling at you from the side. Thank you.
And I just realized this is my last meeting of my tenure this year, and my last time to gavel. Good night.